In the largest meeting room of naval headquarters, a dozen high-level executives have gathered at this time. The high-level executives headed by Marine Marshal Kong are all sitting on their seats with serious faces. Sengoku and Zephyr sat in the empty seat on both sides. Garp and others also sat down in turn. Many of the people present were serious-faced, especially Garp's face was the most ugly face. The reason why Garp is like this is because the naval headquarters has received a report from Sakazuki yesterday that his son Monkey D. Dragon rebelled after killing a few soldiers yesterday. When he heard the news, he was also very shocked. The first time he felt that Sakazuki had lied about the military situation. Even now, he still didn't fully believe it. He just wanted to wait for Sakazuki to come back and question him again. Boom. There was a knock on the door in the conference room, and everyone in it was shocked, and said emptily, "Come in." The door to the meeting room was opened, and Sakazuki was the first one to walk in. Seeing so many people in the meeting room, his expression remained unchanged, and his face remained expressionless, making it impossible to see his thoughts. Marshal Sakazuki. Sakazuki Vice Admiral has been brought here. The Marine Vice Admiral who has been following Sakazuki respectfully said to Marshal Marine in the first seat. Sora said, "Well, Sakazuki and the Ghost Spider are staying, so let's get out first." Yes. Several members of the Military Investigation Department quickly withdrew from the conference room. The door of the meeting room was closed again, leaving only Sakazuki and the Ghost Spider, who had already been sitting in the meeting room with the high-level Marines. All of Marine's senior executives stared at Sakazuki and the Ghost Spider, and asked without a word, "Sakazuki, you should know why we called you here this time?" Sakazuki said, "It's because of the Monkey D. Dragon incident." Garp, who had been holding it all the time, couldn't help it anymore. He immediately asked loudly, "Sakazuki, tell me what the hell is going on with the dragon? You said he has rebelled, how is this possible?" Sakazuki said to Garp, "Garp Vice Admiral, I know you don't believe it, but what I said is true. Just yesterday, the dragon killed 6 of us and escaped from the warship while we disembarked to supply supplies. And then I chased him up and fought him for a long time, but still failed to stop him, he escaped." "Are you sure what you said is true?" Garp asked again. Sakazuki said, "I can bet on my guarantee of justice, everything I say is true, nothing is false." Upon hearing this, Garp couldn't say anything. Since Sakazuki said this, it means that there will be no falsehoods, but he still asked without giving up, "Why does the dragon have no signs?" "Rebellion. He hasn't rebelled in Marine all these years. Why did he rebel after going out with you?" Sakazuki frowned and said, "I don't want to carry this pot, Garp Vice Admiral. Do you think I made him betray? But what good is it for me to do this? Although he and I are not friends, they are not like this." Framing him in the matter. Garp was silent. He also knew that the possibility of Sakazuki cheating on this kind of thing was too small. He just didn't want to believe that his son would rebel. "Garp, sit down." Sora ordered Garp to sit down and asked Sakazuki, "Sakazuki, my order is for you to bring the dragon back. Why did you let him escape without preparing it in advance?" Garp just sat down. He stood up immediately after hearing Garp's words, and exclaimed, "What? What did you know beforehand? What's going on? Why didn't I know at all?" At this time, Sengoku next to Garp grabbed him and said, "Garp, don't blame us for this matter. After all, Long is your son. If you know in advance, you should understand what I mean." Garp and Sengoku's old partner for decades, even at this moment of regenerating energy, they can only snorted and vented, and then sat down again very unhappy. Sakazuki said, "Prepare beforehand. Marshal, the dragon is the son of Garp Vice Admiral. If I send someone to stare at him, I won't be spotted. So I can only assume that nothing happened, and the dragon didn't show up on the way. I want to betray a little bit. I have already arrived at Marineford, who knows that he will do it at that time. Regardless of the reason, since you have been asked to be careful in advance, you are still allowed to flee in the end, so you must be responsible." At this time, Zephyr Admiral, who had been at odds with Sakazuki, also spoke, and he scolded Sakazuki very harshly. Sakazuki said, "I don't deny that I am responsible, it is indeed my mistake, and I am willing to take it." Garp folded his arms and asked, "Up to now, I just want to figure out why the dragon betrayed. It can't be unreasonable, right?" Sora gestured to Sengoku, and Sengoku said, "Not long ago, there was information from CP0, saying that an anti-world government organization appeared in the world recently, and it has developed rapidly in a short period of time. According to them constant analysis, the source is directed at Monkey D. Dragon. He should be the cadre blocked by the anti-world government, and maybe even the leader. However, because of insufficient intelligence, let us make a secret arrest. If we can catch the dragon, maybe we can use him to disintegrate this mysterious organization." After Sengoku finished speaking, Sora asked Sakazuki again, "Sakazuki, you said you caught up with the dragon and you fought against each other. Presumably you should know why he betrayed Marine, right? Sakazuki said. The dragon mentioned their organization, saying that they are a group of righteous people gathered to overthrow this decadent world. In the final analysis, it is a group of organizations set up to overthrow the world government, called the Revolutionary Army. Revolutionary Army. The Marine executives present were all horrified, and they were really arrogant. They wanted revolution. This meant pushing to the world government and re-establishing order. Sora looked solemn and asked again. Do you know what kind of personnel they are and how powerful they are? Sakazuki shook his head and said, how can I know this, but I am sure that Long should be the leader of this Revolutionary Army organization. Those people are all gathered by him. As for how he did it, I don't, it's too clear. Kong asked. Other than that, what information is there? Sakazuki said. Dragon is very confident in their organization, so I guess there should be a lot of strong players among them, especially Long. Judging from the situation where he played against me, his strength is no less than mine, even it may be stronger. Even Sakazuki, who had fought against him, was not sure how strong the dragon was. Although both of them suffered serious injuries in the previous battle, to be honest, neither of them had the decision to kill each other. Therefore, it cannot be said that it is a deadly battle, and there are all whole cards that have not appeared. For what Sakazuki said, Sora is not surprised. After all, since this mysterious Revolutionary Army organization can be valued by the world government, it is enough to explain their power. As for the strength of the dragon, he is the son of the hero Garp, and being a member of the D family, it is not surprising that they are strong. It's just that Sakazuki said that the dragon may be the leader of the Revolutionary Army, which shocked everyone. As the son of Garp, the dragon can be said to have grown up in naval headquarters. Most people are familiar with him and know that he is a very good young man, but because he is a young man, they wonder why Long can become the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Garp couldn't help asking. You said Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, but he has always stayed in his headquarters and rarely goes out. How did he do this? His doubts are also the doubts of other people. After all, such a large organization cannot easily establish a system, and it is impossible to do without a lot of time. Sakazuki shrugged and said, it's useless to ask me about this, because I am not very familiar with him, but if I have to say something, I can be sure that there must be dragons in our headquarters. People. Sora asked solemnly, you mean, there may be spies in our marine? Sakazuki said, it's not possible, but there must be. The timing of his defection this time is too accurate. If it hadn't been notified in advance, how could it be so accurate that he chose to defect when he was about to arrive at naval headquarters? The order you sent me, apart from Claude and me, even the ghost spider doesn't know about it, so there will only be a problem in the headquarters. Speaking of this incident, he was really strange. The order sent to him by naval headquarters was only seen by him and Claude, and no one else knew about it, including ghost spiders. However, Long was able to defect and escape at the last minute accurately. It is absolutely impossible to get the news long ago. Otherwise, he would not go back and stay in New World directly. So he guessed that someone should inform him. If that's the case, then the person who informed him must be the person in naval headquarters. Sora's face became difficult to look, because Sakazuki directly said that there were spies in the base. If this happened, he would not be able to escape responsibility. As Marshal Marine, he turned his men into enemies. He was naturally very dissatisfied and angry. I don't know if there is an enemy spy in the headquarters, but the old man knows that someone has become ill-intentioned. At this moment, Zephyr Admiral, who was sitting on the lower head of the sky, suddenly spoke. When speaking, he stared sharply at Sakazuki. Sakazuki raised his brows and asked, Zephyr Admiral, what do you mean by this? Zephyr stared coldly and said, the old man got the information, and someone did something that harmed Marine. Sakazuki said, Zephyr Admiral said so, it seems to be talking about me. You still don't want to admit it? Zephyr said angrily. Privately distribute the seized pirate spoils, without the permission of the boss, privately issue orders, make decisions, and even staged a big drama in New World, don't you want to admit it? As soon as Zephyr said this, the entire conference room was quiet. There were so many people gathered today. They were not just discussing the dragon betrayal. The dragon betrayal has become a fact. Marine rebelled, but the incident rose to the level of the world government, and it will definitely be taken over by other organizations of the world government. Marine only needs to provide a part of the information, and it does not need to be publicized. The main goal of today's meeting is Sakazuki. Except for a few Marine Vice Admiral who don't know the truth, the other senior executives all know the purpose of today's meeting, but Sora hasn't attacked yet. Zephyr can't help but speak. Hearing Zephyr's question, Vice Admiral's face changed suddenly, and he realized that the situation seemed to be very wrong. If it were normal, Zephyr would be so against Sakazuki, someone would definitely come out to speak, but today, Sora Sengoku and others didn't speak, obviously tacitly, they had already discussed with each other. How do you feel that today's meeting is specifically for Sakazuki? The situation is not good. He was not the only one who realized that the situation was wrong, and the others who did not know also held their breath and watched the development of the situation silently. And Sakazuki, who was questioned by Zephyr, asked calmly, "Private distribution of the pirate loot. Excuse me, Zephyr Admiral, I want to ask, where did you hear the news?" Zephyr said coldly, "If you don't know what you want, unless you do nothing, the old man naturally has the old man's channel. You only need to answer, is there such a thing?" "No," Sakazuki answered without hesitation. "No? Sakazuki, don't you dare to admit what you have done." Zephyr angrily patted the table and asked. Sakazuki said, "Why should I admit what I haven't done? If you have to say that, then please bring the person who reported me, and we can confront it on the spot." "You." Zephyr was angrily speechless. Of course, he couldn't find someone to confront Sakazuki, because he had no substantive evidence. What the intelligence personnel said at this time would only be more unfavorable. "Sakazuki, don't try to conceal it. People from the Military Investigation Department have already begun investigating your private soldiers. As long as you really do that, they will be able to find evidence, and your guilt will only be heavier," Zephyr warned. "Also, Colonel Jeremy, the inspector assigned to you by the headquarters, how did he die?" Sakazuki said, "Didn't I just confess that Colonel Jeremy and 5 of my soldiers were killed by the dragon when he escaped from the warship? You can ask the warship on this point. Everyone, they know it." Zephyr shouted, "Whether it's true or not, it's up to you to decide. Dragon has nothing to do with Jeremy. Even if he wants to betray, he cannot kill Jeremy for no reason, unless someone is in harmony with him." Ahem. A cough interrupted Zephyr's anger, and Sora shook his head to Zephyr and signaled him not to speak anymore. Even if he doubted Sakazuki anymore, he didn't think that Sakazuki would be related to the dragon in the Revolutionary Army. If Zephyr was allowed to continue talking, if this happens, the matter will become more serious, and Sakazuki will not violate military discipline, but betray enough to be executed. Sora looked at Sakazuki and asked, "Sakazuki, you are a junior that I am very optimistic about. You have embezzled trophies privately. This is a serious violation of military discipline. If you really do it, if you admit it now, I will deal with it lightly. But if you do, but you don't admit it, after you find the evidence, you will have to pay a premium." Listening to the empty tone, obviously he also doubted Sakazuki, hoping that Sakazuki would take the initiative to admit it. But Sakazuki still said firmly, "I can't admit what I haven't done." Zephyr wanted to speak again, but Sora stopped him, and then said, "Since you said that, then we will put this matter aside for the time being and talk about another matter. Regarding the Whitebeard pirates, although you rescued Harrington and others, Marine suffered a huge loss and suffered a reputational damage. How do you explain this matter?" As soon as the empty voice fell, a Marine Vice Admiral stood up and said loudly, "The Marshal is right. This matter is really lacking in consideration. The G1 branch is an important force for Marine to deter the New World pirates. Now G1, the branch's withdrawal from New World, is a great loss for us. It has caused us Marine to suffer a huge public opinion. This is the first time that Marine has faced such a terrible defeat by a pirate in so many years." Sakazuki turned his head and looked at this person. This person is also the Marine Vice Admiral of the older generation. He is more than 40 years old. However, he knows very well that this person has spoken out and directed him against him. This is entirely because of Zephyr. The person is Vice Admiral from the Zephyr family. Sakazuki asked faintly, "Then what should I do as you want? Regardless of the lives of Harrington Vice Admiral and others, and fight with the Whitebeard pirates? Or should I humbly beg the pirates and let Harrington Vice Admiral? Or I moved out naval headquarters and moved out of world government, so Whitebeard would compromise? If it's you, tell me, what should I do?" The person was speechless. Sakazuki spoke very quickly, and there was almost no way to refute it, because neither one was possible. Seeing that the person stopped speaking, Sakazuki said to Sora again, "Marshal, this matter is indeed my responsibility. I didn't think about it so much at the time. I just wanted to rescue Harrington Vice Admiral. As a veteran, Vice Admiral Harrington has made great contributions to our naval headquarters. He has been fighting the pirates all his life. The pirate died in humiliation. Forgive me for not being able to do this. Furthermore, the G1 branch has been defeated by the Whitebeard pirates, the Foundation has been damaged, and it has already suffered heavy losses. At this time, I don't think we should continue to stay in New World. The rapid retreat is the best choice. As for us Marine, is reputation damage more important than the lives of Harrington Vice Admiral and others?" Listening to Sakazuki talking so much at once, all the people present were serious looking, especially the older veterans. They all agreed with Sakazuki's words, especially Marine Marshal Sora. Harrington was his former lieutenant, and the relationship between the two of them was naturally closer than the others, so no matter what else, He was very grateful for Sakazuki to be able to save Harrington, but Sakazuki did not report to the headquarters and decided privately. Let the G1 branch withdraw from New World. This is indeed a surpass, and it cannot be suppressed at all. At this time, Harrington Vice Admiral, who had recovered and was also sitting in the meeting room, suddenly stood up. He looked at everyone and spoke slowly. I have the right to talk about this matter. I was there when Sakazuki confronted Whitebeard and negotiated. Sakazuki did not lose the face of our Marine. Everything is to save me. If I have to be held accountable for this, I am willing. It's no problem to take all the responsibilities for him and to apologize with death. After all, this matter was caused by me. When the veteran Harrington said this, most of the people present nodded secretly. It is true that Sakazuki cannot be blamed for this matter. At most, it can only be regarded as without prior consultation, but the situation at the time changed to other as far as people are concerned. It is impossible to do better than Sakazuki. Sora hurriedly comforted. Harrington, sit down, and no one knows that something like that will happen. Whitebeard is the #1 pirate in the New World. It is not your fault that you were defeated in his hands. As for Sakazuki's responsibility, we haven't finished discussing it yet. Harrington resolutely said, Marshal, Sakazuki saved my life, and my subordinates, so no matter what decision everyone makes, I am willing to bear all the responsibilities and punishments, but you are not punished. Sakazuki, because he is really an excellent soldier, with admiral style, is the future of our Marine. Say good things to Sakazuki, not only because Sakazuki saved his life, but because he saw Sakazuki's ability. How many people in naval headquarters can face the entire Whitebeard pirates and still talk and laugh freely? Finally forced Whitebeard to compromise? Therefore, Harrington is willing to take all the responsibilities. First, he is grateful, but more importantly, he is optimistic about Sakazuki, a veteran who has fought with pirates all his life, and wants to see Marine's future glory. Sakazuki himself was also infected by Harrington. He solemnly said, Harrington Vice Admiral, you are also a victim of this incident, and it is true that I did not comprehensively do it. The responsibility is my own. Because of this incident, Harrington retreated all his power, and he will only be a veteran guarding naval headquarters in the future, so he really does not want this veteran to take responsibility for this matter. As soon as Harrington Vice Admiral was about to speak, Sora spoke first. Okay, Harrington, you don't need to say, sit down, this matter still depends on everyone's decision. Then he glanced at everyone present and asked, we, naval headquarters, are not talking in words. Today, we are gathering everyone here. It is not just watching and not talking. Anyone who has any thoughts can say it. Sengoku, you say. Zephyr would obviously target Sakazuki, so Sora did not ask him, but instead asked Sengoku. Sengoku said calmly, I have done meritorious services, but in my opinion, meritorious deeds are greater than demerits. After all, the hostages can be rescued from Whitebeard without any substantial loss. This is an amazing thing in itself. If it is me, it may not be possible to achieve this level. Kong nodded, and then asked Zephyr, Zephyr, what do you think? Zephyr looked ugly. He said, Gong is gong, passing is passing. Marine is a disciplined force. If anyone violates discipline in this way, what military discipline is there for naval headquarters in the future? What Zephyr said makes sense. Sora nodded, and then asked other people. You also talk about your own thoughts. Garp sitting under Sengoku snorted coldly and said, this is not a big deal at all, I have no opinion. He is still dissatisfied with the Dragon's Rebellion, but he is not going to target Sakazuki because of this incident. The only female, Vice Admiral, said, Marine's face is not obtained by negotiation, but by strength. The G1 branch was forced to withdraw from New World. This is indeed a great loss, but now New World has already gradually getting out of our control, and shrinking power is not necessarily a good thing. Of course, Harrington's coming back alive is more important than anything else. Women are more emotional, especially older women, who are more nostalgic. Although Vice Admiral did not directly express her opinion, but only expounded some facts, the last sentence still expressed her thoughts. As an army that needs to frighten the sea, if it doesn't even abide by discipline, what cohesion is there, and what else can be used to restrain the soldiers? No matter what the reason is, it should not be a reason for violating military discipline. A Marine Vice Admiral also expressed his opinion. This Vice Admiral is actually much taller than Sakazuki, and they are like a giant. Sakazuki has not seen him before, so he did not recognize him at this time. As soon as the person finished speaking, Paluzolino laughed. Oh, if you were the one caught, I wonder if you can say something like this? The Vice Admiral suddenly angered. If it were me, I would rather commit suicide and would not violate military discipline. Oh, it's really great. From now on, we will directly create a new military discipline in Marine. If we lose in the battle with the pirates, we will directly decide on our own. What do you think? Paluzolino sarcastically said. I didn't mean that, Pelusalino. Don't misunderstand what I mean. The giant vice admiral roared angrily. Perusalino said, I listen to you, that's what you mean. You. The giant vice admiral was very angry. Kong scolded. Enough, Pelusalino, be careful when speaking. This is not a place for you to argue. Pelusalino stopped ridiculing, and then everyone else began to express their opinions. In the end, 3/4 of the people directly or indirectly indicated that they agreed with Sakazuki to save Harrington. The rest are based on Sakazuki's violation of military discipline, and believes that he should be held accountable. Sora finally said, It seems that everyone's opinions are inclined to save people, so this matter will stop here, and I will not be allowed to use this matter in the future. But Sakazuki is in violation of military discipline after all, although there are people interceding. There is still a penalty, 1 year's salary is fined. Because it's about his lieutenant, Sora finally took it lightly and settled the matter with a very light punishment. Even if some people were very dissatisfied, it could only be so. After all, the facts are in front of most people. It was agreed, and Marshal Marine couldn't be rebutted. Now there is one last thing. Sora's face became serious again, even a little cold, and asked Sakazuki. Sakazuki, it was spread in New World not long ago. About the pirate 4 emperors, you spread it out, right? As soon as this remark came out, the audience was shocked. Among the people present, apart from Aokiji and Pelusalino, there was nothing but Sengoku. A few people such as Sengoku and Zephyr knew about New World in advance. The pirate 4 emperors, who was making a lot of noise, was actually made by Sakazuki, so it was naturally very shocking. Yes. Sakazuki said this in front of so many people, so naturally it cannot be rebutted. Hi. New World's 4 emperors said it was made by Sakazuki, really? I just heard that this is the case. It's incredible. Marine actually advises the pirates? Sakazuki is Marine, shouldn't he do such a thing? Many people secretly speculate in their hearts that the impact this incident has brought to them is really too great, even more shocking than the sum of the few things just now, because those few things are serious, but far from it. This matter is serious, and this is suspected of being a pirate. Kong Shen asked. Since you admit it is best, you should be aware of the seriousness of this matter, but you still did it, and such an important matter has not been notified to the headquarters in advance, and you still have the headquarters in your eyes. Existence, do you still remember that you were vice admiral in this department? I have something to say about this. Sakazuki did not speak, and the ghost spider spoke first. He said, at that time, Sakazuki vice admiral only wanted to reduce the consequences of the Marine G1 branch incident, so he decided to use the decision of the pirate 4 emperors, in order to let the thieves fight each other to fight for the position of the 4 emperors. Now all of this is just as we thought. The New World pirates are fighting for the position of the 4 emperors. Many of the pirates who caused our headaches are killed because of this. Isn't this a good strategy? Presumptuous. Do you have the qualifications to speak here? Seeing the ghost spider talking, a vice admiral suddenly yelled. Sakazuki said coldly. The ghost spider is my lieutenant. His words can represent me. Why is it not qualified to speak? Empty opened his mouth and said, well, this is not the place where you are arguing, ghost spider. You said that the pirate 4 emperors is a strategy against New World, but have you considered the consequences? Carnage, chaos, but before long, they will really appear as the pirate 4 emperors. What kind of situation will it be like? Have you thought about it? The ghost spider continued. This matter is actually forced by the situation. Sakazuki vice admiral also knows the consequences, so when he heard this decision at first, he was actually unwilling to do it, but for the reputation of Marine, he could only do it. And many more. Sengoku suddenly yelled to stop the ghost spider, and then asked. You just said that this strategy was not what Sakazuki vice admiral thought of. It was heard from others? The ghost spider immediately replied. Sengoku admiral, this is the end of the matter, and the subordinates can no longer hide it. In fact, the strategy of the pirate 4 emperors was not first thought of by Sakazuki vice admiral. It was Monkey D. Dragon's response to Sakazuki. Vice admiral said that at the time we were struggling with how to deal with the public opinion that would happen next, so Long told us this plan. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the people present suddenly changed again. Sengoku asked in amazement. You mean, the strategy of the pirate 4 emperors was first proposed by Monkey D. Dragon, not you? Sakazuki's eyes shrunk slightly, without speaking. The ghost spider replied affirmatively. Yes, this strategy was suggested to us by Monkey D. Dragon at the beginning. We also know the problem with this strategy, but at the time the situation is urgent and we can't think about it too much, so in the end we discussed with everyone and got the majority of people's consent before making a decision. Perusalino said in a timely manner, it was indeed the case at the time, and we decided after consultation. Kuzan also said, yes. Seeing these two people also spoke, Zephyr suddenly showed dissatisfaction, and said in a deep voice, Such an important matter, without discussing it with the headquarters, can be decided by you, young Vice Admiral. You know about this matter. How serious are the consequences? Also, you said that this strategy was suggested by Monkey D. Dragon. What proof do you have? Even if it is true, Sakazuki is the one who made the decision. You are the one who made the decision. You have 90% of this matter. Responsibility. There is nothing wrong with Zephyr's words, no matter who came up with this suggestion. Sakazuki finally said it. The responsibility is his. Marshal Kong also said in a deep voice. This matter is indeed too much for you. The Pirate Four Emperors is too harmful, even I don't have the right to decide, so you must take responsibility for this matter. Seeing Lien Sora say this, it shows that punishment is definitely indispensable, but this is all in the expectation of Sakazuki and the Ghost Spider, and they did not expect to really push the blame on the dragon, mentioning the dragon, just want to share part of the responsibility. Sakazuki said, this matter is decided by me, and I am willing to take all the responsibilities. This matter also has my responsibility. If you want to punish, add me. Perusalino also said, the reason why he said this is not that he has a good relationship with Sakazuki, but that he was also involved in this matter, so he must excuse Sakazuki. Kuzan also followed up and said, there is still me. Sora interrupted. We decide how to punish, and you don't need to say anything. At this time, the door of the conference room was knocked again, and the Marine Vice Admiral who had escorted Sakazuki walked in, whispered a few words in Kong's ear, and then left. Everyone's eyes were on Sora, because they all knew that the man must have told Sora just now whether he found evidence that Sakazuki had embezzled the pirate's spoils. Can only be regarded as a transgression. Privately embezzling the pirate spoils is the real violation of military discipline. Sora asked Sakazuki grimly. Sakazuki, let me ask you one last sentence again. Did you embezzle the pirate's spoils without authorization? No, Sakazuki answered very simply. Then Sora looked at the Ghost Spider again and asked. Ghost Spider, you can say it, don't worry, as long as you tell the truth. I guarantee that no one can threaten you, say it. The tone was very severe. The Ghost Spider replied affirmatively. No, I am the Vice Admiral of Sakazuki Vice Admiral. If there is such a thing, how could I not know? Boom. I slapped it heavily on the table and sternly said. I haven't said yet, Sakazuki, Ghost Spider, you two are really brave, and now I dare to deny that we have got the information that you will seize it privately. The pirate loot was awarded to the soldiers under his command, even Colonel Jeremy received it, so he didn't expose you, did he? 2 billion Baileys, 2 billion Baileys, Sakazuki, where are you so bold? As soon as this remark came out, all those who didn't know the inside story looked terrified. 2 billion Baileys, such a large sum, is it too terrifying, right? For a while, everyone's eyes fell on Sakazuki, and many vice admirals stood up. Marshal, what you said is true. Sakazuki really distributed 2 billion Baileys to his soldiers. Privately embezzling 2 billion Baileys, Sakazuki, are you too courageous? Impossible. Sakazuki Vice Admiral cannot be such a person. For a time, the high-level people present were divided into two factions. One faction was scolding Sakazuki, and the other faction did not believe that Sakazuki would do such a thing, and the whole meeting room became noisy. Sakazuki, what else do you want to say? Sora yelled again. Sakazuki didn't show any reaction on the surface, but his heart was very shaken. He knew that this matter had spread, but he didn't expect that even the details of the inside story would be known, and even the acquisition of Jeremy would be found out. Although his heart was shaken, Sakazuki would naturally not admit it at this time. The consequences of this incident were too serious. If he admitted, he would not be able to stay in naval headquarters. The best result was to be transferred to the other branches. There is no room for promotion for a lifetime, and the worst is likely to be imprisoned by naval headquarters forever. No matter what kind of result, it was not what Sakazuki wanted, so he denied. Since the marshal doubts me, no matter how much I quibble, it is useless, but I didn't do this. If you report me like this in private, then I want to know who it is and we can confront it. Kong sternly said. Well, since you want to confront you, then I will fulfill you and bring people up. After an order was given, a marine soldier was brought up soon, depending on the rank or captain, but after this person came in, he was very cautious, and he lowered his head and dared not look at the marine bosses present. Sakazuki frowned when he saw the captain officer, because he didn't know this person. In other words, this person was not a soldier under his command. If not, how did he know? Sora pointed to the captain marine soldier and said, he's the one who made the report, Sakazuki, just ask what you want to ask. Sakazuki was not polite. He looked at the captain soldier and asked, you are the one who reported me, do we know? Which unit are you from? Facing Sakazuki, the person looked very nervous, but pursed his lips, and replied cautiously, I am a private soldier under Kuzan Vice Admiral. It is indeed what I told Kuzan Vice Admiral about you. Sakazuki glanced at Kuzan, and saw Kuzan sitting there calmly. Even if Sakazuki was staring at him, he didn't do anything. Sakazuki was really surprised. He didn't expect that the person who reported him was actually surprised. It was a private soldier under Kuzan, which was beyond his expectation. The person who reported him was actually Kuzan's subordinate. This is something that Sakazuki never thought of. Sakazuki admits that he has no intersection with Kuzan. If there is any intersection, that is, at the meeting after Golden Lion attacked naval headquarters, the argument between him and Kuzan, but Kuzan will be able to do it in the future. The person in Marine Admiral's position, and the wind evaluation is not bad, shouldn't do this kind of backstabbing thing. Although he can't figure out what Kuzan really means, he definitely can't take the blame, so he stared at the man with a cold look, and asked, "Then tell me, what did you report me?" Fear value from Godlu Varas. +268, +85. Before this person started answering, Sakazuki had already received fear points from him, indicating that this person had been frightened by him. The lieutenant officer named Godlu blinked, avoiding Sakazuki's gaze, lowered his head and said, I. Seeing this person hesitating, Kong said in dissatisfaction, "Just say that this is naval headquarters. No one will do anything to you. Just tell the truth." Godlu is just a small captain officer. Facing so many big guys, he was scared at first. In addition, Sakazuki's gaze was too terrifying, so he became more nervous and shivered. Even if he didn't speak, he was still worried, uneasy, continue to provide Sakazuki with a small amount of fear. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "I also heard that Sakazuki Vice Admiral took out all the 2 billion Baileys seized from the pirates to reward his subordinates, and bribed Colonel Jeremy with 200 million Baileys. Tell him not to publicize this matter." Boom. As soon as the voice fell, a violent sound came out, and Zephyr stood up furiously, pointing to Sakazuki and shouting, "Sakazuki, what else do you want to say? You are really brave enough to make such a big rebellion thing." Ah. In response to Zephyr, Sakazuki sneered disdainfully. After Zephyr broke out, when he heard Sakazuki's sneer, he said coldly, "What do you mean? Did you just talk to your teacher like this?" Seeing that Zephyr was still an open-mouthed teacher, Sakazuki only felt awkward. He mocked, "I just feel very chilling. I am also Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters anyway. As a result, I will be convicted of any report by a soldier. What is the reason for this? He reported me that I misappropriated the pirates' spoils, so I misappropriated it. Everyone. Then I would like to say that if there is a soldier in the future to report your corruption and wrongdoing, then it must be true. It's ridiculous." Sakazuki's words caused many people present to nod, and Doberman Vice Admiral even said, "Sakazuki Vice Admiral is right. You can't be convicted just because of a report by anyone. Who knows if he is guilty? If you want to be convicted, you must at least have conclusive evidence, right?" Yes, Sakazuki is the Vice Admiral of the headquarters. This soldier has already violated the rules when he leapfrogged his report, and he cannot punish the meritorious person because of his side words. The Vice Admiral who spoke was clearly on Sakazuki's side. Later, several people opened their mouths to defend Sakazuki. Don't think Sakazuki is known for being strict in Marine, but in fact, his personnel relations are not bad, and his character is not very pleasing, but there is no shortage of him in Marine. Hawkish high level, so naturally someone will speak for him. Zephyr didn't feel annoyed when he saw so many people talking for Sakazuki. His dissatisfaction with Sakazuki was more due to Sakazuki's disrespect for him and his disapproval of Sakazuki's various practices. It's not that he really had any hatred with Sakazuki. So when someone speaks for Sakazuki, he certainly won't be angry. He told Godlu Vals, "Tell what you know." Godlu said immediately, "I didn't make any false accusations, because I heard everything from my cousin. My cousin is a private soldier under Sakazuki Vice Admiral. He said that he was planning to use a portion of the money to reward them. In addition, Sakazuki Vice Admiral also had a conflict with Colonel Jeremy, and Colonel Jeremy who was later bribed. Colonel Jeremy did not disclose it." Although Zephyr asked, but even if he heard this, his face was very ugly. Colonel Jeremy was also taught by him. He was considered a better disciple he had taught, but he never expected that Jeremy would actually violate military discipline and principles for money. Both Sakazuki and Ghost Spider winked. They didn't expect this person to have this relationship with the people under his command. The Ghost Spider was a little flustered, but Sakazuki was not so worried. He asked, "Who are you talking about?" Sora said, "Needless to say, I have already had someone bring him." Then he gave orders to the soldiers behind him, and after a while, a Marine soldier was taken into the meeting room. After this person was brought into the conference room, his face was full of nervousness. Although he was a private soldier under Sakazuki's command, It was the first time he was summoned by so many bosses, so he was very nervous, but when he saw Godlu, suddenly looked startled. Before he could think about it, Zephyr first asked, "This soldier, is he your cousin?" Pointing to Godlu. "He is indeed ours." When the ghost spider saw the marine soldier, his face became even more ugly. Sakazuki frowned, but said calmly, "Don't be nervous, and act accordingly." "Yes." The marine soldier answered Zephyr's question truthfully. Zephyr nodded. In fact, Marine Admiral didn't need to ask him personally for this kind of thing, but out of selfishness, he still wanted to ask him personally, and the others didn't mean to stop it. "Very well, soldier. What's your name?" "Zephyr Admiral, my name is Koria Vals." The soldier replied respectfully. "Do you know why we called you here?" Zephyr asked. Koria shook her head and said, "I don't know." Zephyr said, "We called you over. There is something to confirm with you. Your cousin said that you had told him that your Lord Sakazuki Vice Admiral gave you rewards worth more than 1 billion Baileys. Do you have this?" Upon hearing this, Koria's face suddenly changed. He suddenly turned his head to look at his cousin, Drew, but before he could speak, Godru took the lead and said, "Koria, don't blame me. This is the order of the Marshal. Now that all the adults are here, don't hide it, just tell the truth." Koria ignored him, but turned to look at Sakazuki, who is also a veteran of Sakazuki's command, and naturally understands this boss. He saw the coldness in Sakazuki's eyes, and his heart shuddered suddenly. Fear from Kori Vals. +560. Koria really did not expect that his mouth would cause such a big trouble, and at the same time he also hated in his heart. This cousin of his own is really too despicable, and he actually shared what he said to him. Come out, and now he has nowhere to go. For a moment, he thought a lot, until Zephyr urged once again, his eyes fixed. "Marshal, Godlu is indeed my cousin, but I don't know everything he said, and I have never said this to him. Sakazuki rewarded us with 1 billion Baileys. Really too. It's funny, I don't know where he heard it from. If this is the case, wouldn't each of us be able to get millions of Baileys?" As he said, Koria suddenly became excited. "Several millions of Baileys, if I can really get millions of Baileys, will I publicize this kind of thing everywhere? I'm not an idiot, making a fortune in silence. Don't you understand the truth? So I really don't know about this, and I don't know why my cousin said he listened to me." Kong's eyes flashed, and he asked, "You mean, you haven't said these things to your cousin at all, and your cousin has woven all this?" Koria replied affirmatively. "I'm sure I didn't speak. As for why my cousin would say such a thing, I don't know, maybe someone instigated it." Later, he asked his cousin, "Godlu, I don't understand who made you say these things, but I can tell you with certainty, how can this happen? 1 billion Baileys points to the people, who do you think would be so generous? It's not tens of thousands, millions, but billions, cousin, let's be honest." When Godlu heard this, he became anxious. He immediately said, "Koria, why don't you admit it? That's how you told me when you were at the Marine G5 branch base, saying that Sakazuki Vice Admiral will be 10 hundreds of millions of Baileys have been distributed to you as rewards. Why don't you admit it?" After speaking, he seemed to have thought of something, and then said, "I understand, Koria, you are afraid, right? Now that the Marshal and Zephyr Admiral are in charge of us, you don't need to be afraid at all, just tell the truth." Godlu, "I respect you as my cousin who didn't say it so bad, but you can't frame me. I've never said anything like this, and I've never done anything like this, Marshal, if you don't believe me. If you do, you can ask other people." Godlu is anxious. Koria is even more anxious than him. He knows better than his cousin. His cousin is not a soldier under Sakazuki's command, but he is, betraying his boss, even if Sakazuki is dead in the end. Now, he will definitely be finished. No one will want to have such a person who may betray him at any time. The ghost spider was still very nervous, but after hearing Koria's answer, he was relieved. No matter how others suspect, as long as there is no conclusive evidence, Sakazuki cannot be convicted. Seeing the brothers Godlu and Koria quarreling, Sora yelled impatiently, "Stop arguing." The meeting room suddenly became quiet. At this time, all the high levels present also saw the tricks. Even if Sakazuki was not so exaggerated, he must have misappropriated part of the spoils privately. Relying on the Godlu who is not under Sakazuki to prove it, this is not enough to convince people. Sora asked Koria again, "Soldier of Koria, you are responsible for your words. The military investigation department has begun investigating your companions. If someone says something, your responsibility will be doubled. You have to think about it." Koria has nowhere to go, so he firmly said, "I have never said these things. If I have said them, I will be responsible. If the Marshal really doesn't believe it, then I can only die. Prove." As he spoke, he pulled out the short sword he was carrying and struck his neck vigorously. Puff. The scene that happened suddenly made everyone present unresponsive, and everyone woke up after Koria snarled herself. Sora shouted furiously, Rescue him. But it's a pity that Korya Ishin begged for death, so naturally he wouldn't be merciful. When someone reacted, he was already dead. Damn it. Many people scolded, especially Sakazuki, and Sakazuki's faces were the most ugly. Sakazuki was really surprised by the reaction of the soldier under his command. In fact, in his opinion, the evidence is already very sufficient. Korya must have told Godlu about this, otherwise Godlu would not know. Although it was an unintentional mistake of the details, Korya still has to bear the responsibility of leaking the secrets. However, Korya refused to admit it in front of so many people, and finally got himself to show his innocence, which blocked Godlu's report. Unless you can find other evidence, Godlu's words can't be counted at all. Work as evidence. What a loyal soldier. Sakazuki sighed in his heart. Perhaps this is Korya's best choice, because no matter what the final outcome of this matter is, if he is still alive, he will definitely not end well, but now in order to keep himself dead, he must accept his love. At the very least, he must ensure that his family can lead a prosperous life. Korya's self-suffering brought a great impact to the people present, especially Godlu. He was stupid. In the end, Kuzan couldn't see it and took him out of the meeting room. Korya died. Godlu's words are useless, and staying will only inspire contradictions. The vice admiral who had escorted Sakazuki and the others walked in again and spoke a conversation in Sakazuki's ear. Then Sora said solemnly, "The people from the military investigation department have investigated the soldiers under Sakazuki vice admiral. Including the rest of the people on the warship, no one accused Sakazuki of embezzling the pirates' spoils." The people present did not show any surprises. Even Korya, the leaker, protected Sakazuki with death, not to mention the rest. So even those who saw Sakazuki were not pleasing to the eye, they were all taken by Sakazuki. By means of restraint, none of the hundreds of subordinates betrayed it. This is not something ordinary people can do. Sora continued. Also, this time Sakazuki went to New World and seized a total of 1 billion Baileys. Now all of them are counted, and there are a lot of points. As for what Godlu said before, I'm afraid I can't take it seriously. No one is a fool. Things are already obvious. No evidence is found. Sora seems to be deliberately trying to excuse him. Then everyone turned to Zephyr Admiral to see how he reacted. Contrary to everyone's expectation, Admiral Zephyr, who had been targeting Sakazuki before, was sitting in his chair with his eyes closed and calming down, and he didn't say anything against it, which made people confused. Didn't Zephyr Admiral always have trouble with Sakazuki? How come seeing that Sakazuki is safe and sound due to insufficient evidence, instead of reacting? Sora said. Although there is insufficient evidence regarding Sakazuki Vice Admiral's private embezzlement of pirate spoils, he compromised with the Whitebeard pirate group and proposed the 4 emperors. This is an obvious self-assertion. Overstepping behavior must be strictly enforced. Otherwise, how will naval headquarters rule hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the future? Also, Sakazuki's impunity was not strict, which led to Monkey D. Dragon's rebellion. For all the responsibilities, I have decided to punish Sakazuki. With that, he and Zephyr, who had already opened his eyes, inadvertently glanced at each other, and only when Zephyr nodded slightly, they spoke again, because the speed of their eye contact was too fast, so basically no one noticed. Sora finally announced. After thinking and making a decision, Sakazuki will be punished as follows. 1. The salary will be fined for 3 years, during which various special rewards are automatically halved. 2. Marine Admiral is temporarily deprived of the alternate position, and the position remains the same as Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. 3. Temporarily unable to lead, let alone leave Marineford, the term is 2 years. 4. Transfer to the Naval Headquarters training base and serve as the instructor of the new army, assisting Zephyr's instructor to teach recruit. Saying 4 points in a row made many of the people present with serious faces. Sakazuki was punished. This is a certain thing, but everyone did not expect that Sora would have made such a severe punishment, not only fines, but also banned feat. And even deprived of Marine Admiral's alternate. Although the Marine Admiral alternate is not an official military rank, it is a prerequisite for Marine Vice Admiral's promotion to Marine Admiral. Being deprived of Marine Admiral's alternate means that Sakazuki will not be able to be promoted to Marine Admiral in the short term. This is a very severe punishment. Sakazuki's promotion path was cut off. What's more weird is that Sakazuki actually transferred Sakazuki to Zephyr and became a recruit instructor under his command, which is so interesting. Zephyr is not in harmony with Sakazuki. This is already a well-known thing, and Marine's training base and school are completely under the jurisdiction of Admiral Zephyr. It can be said that Zephyr has more say than nothing in training and teaching soldiers. Now that Sakazuki is transferred to Zephyr's command, isn't it so that Zephyr can be ravaged as he pleases? Sora is optimistic about Sakazuki. This is the consensus of everyone before, but at this moment, many people are wrong. Is it that Sakazuki has been disappointed with Sakazuki? so Sakazuki was transferred to Zephyr. Not to mention other people, including Sengoku, who is Admiral, are also shocked. Sakazuki is a powerful hawk. He is transferred to Zephyr and let him be responsible for teaching recruit. It is not a good choice at all, but this it is an empty decision, and it is impossible for him to raise an objection. Among all the people, Sakazuki was the most upset. Although he had predicted that he would be punished, he did not expect that Sora would punish him so severely without definite evidence. What is unacceptable is that he was transferred to Zephyr's hands. Doesn't Kong know the gap between him and Zephyr? The ghost spider wanted to speak, but was stopped by Sakazuki. He knew very well that since Sora had made such a decision, it was useless to say so much, so why bother arguing? Sakazuki has a big somersault this time. The rest of the senior executives sighed secretly in their hearts, and they couldn't figure out what they were thinking, but it is certain that Sakazuki had a big somersault this time, and will be restricted by Zephyr in the future, so many people who have had some friendship with Sakazuki before all began to make other plans. However, some people wondered why Sora punished Sakazuki alone. People like Paluzolino and Kuzan, Ghost Spiders and others also participated. Why not punish them? Sora finally said, "As for Monkey D. Dragon, a wanted order is issued immediately, and the specific details must be discussed carefully with the people above. This is the end of this meeting." After that, Sora left the meeting room first, and everyone else followed. Many people sighed a pity when they walked to Sakazuki's side. Everyone left, and in the end only a few people were left. Zephyr took Aokiji to Sakazuki's front. Zephyr said to Sakazuki with a cold gaze, "Sakazuki, you have also heard the command of the marshal. Come to the training ground on time tomorrow to find me, and I will arrange the task for you." After speaking, he took Aokiji and left. Sakazuki Vice Admiral. After everyone left, the ghost spider said to Sakazuki with an ugly expression, "I didn't expect the marshal to give such a severe punishment. What are you going to do next?" Sakazuki said, "Is there any plan? I will report to Zephyr tomorrow." After venting his unhappiness, he whispered to the ghost spider, "But this is also the best result. I was only punished. You were not affected. Then I went to Zephyr to report. Here you are." Ghost spiders are also vigorous and resolute, and since Sakazuki is not too decadent, he naturally won't be entangled anymore. "You don't have to worry about the private army. I will take care of it in Korea. Next, I will carry out a severe cleansing of the private army. This will never happen again in the future." Sakazuki sighed lightly and said, "Korea is also a good soldier. He just didn't take care of his mouth, but he can't be blamed on him. Please handle his funeral." He is indeed very emotional about Korea's suicide, because Korea's suicide was to protect him. Regardless of other aspects, Korea still has nothing to say in terms of loyalty, and no one in the private army betrayed him. He was very satisfied at all. Although he did his homework beforehand, it was enough to show everyone's loyalty. But thinking about it the other way around, this may not be completely bad. Recently, the limelight has been too strong and has aroused dissatisfaction with some people. At this time, I was punished and far away from everyone's sight. I can still calm down and think carefully. The way forward. This is indeed Sakazuki's thoughts at this time. Recently, he has encountered various major events and the limelight is too high, so he is now punished, but it can calm him down and think carefully. Regarding Sakazuki's punishment decision, Sora was finalized very quickly. After this meeting, the storm quickly spread throughout naval headquarters. Almost all the soldiers knew that the famous Sakazuki Vice Admiral had a big somersault. The marine soldiers who were scared by Sakazuki were all celebrating with joy. Not to mention other people's discussions and happiness, Sakazuki rested and fell asleep after returning to the residence alone. Although he still had injuries on his body, his physique was very good and there was nothing serious about him. Although he was very upset with Zephyr, Sakazuki would not forget that he was a soldier, so he got up early the next morning and went to the headquarters training ground where Zephyr was located. As the general instructor of naval headquarters, Zephyr is mainly responsible for teaching soldiers. Of course, it is divided into many types. Soldiers and officers of all classes have different educations. Educational institutions are also divided into multiple types. Zephyr is responsible for everything. Zephyr's power is very large. Sakazuki felt that he had arrived early enough, but when he arrived at the training ground, he found that Zephyr had already started the morning exercise with a group of marine soldiers. These soldiers were very young, and they knew they were recruits at first glance. They were of different heights, and the youngest looked he is also 11 or 12 years old. Zephyr was standing on the side directing this group of recruits to train. After seeing Sakazuki coming, he immediately asked Sakazuki to come over. "Zephyr Admiral, Sakazuki is here to report." No matter how dissatisfied he is, Zephyr's rank is higher than him, his seniority is higher than him, and now he is his immediate boss, and he still needs the respect he deserves. "Just come." Zephyr nodded, looked at Sakazuki's unruly face, and asked with a serious expression, Sakazuki, I'm asking you a question, do you think I'm specifically targeting you? Sakazuki's expression was stagnant. He thought about many situations, and without exception, Zephyr embarrassed him, humiliated him, and so on, but he never expected that Zephyr's first sentence would be like this when he saw him.
Zephyr said, if you don't answer, it means you have acquiesced. I have lived for so many years. I have never seen any kind of person. I have also seen many people like you. If every time I encounter such a person, you will be targeted. Do you think I have so much idle time?
Sakazuki heard what Zephyr said, and suddenly felt that the style of painting was wrong. Why is this Zephyr in front of him completely different from when he was targeted at him before? Humph. Zephyr snorted coldly and said, I know what you think. To me, every one of my students is the same. I have taught and educated people for so many years. I have never targeted any student, even if this student asks me to do anything. Not satisfied, you are no exception. Sakazuki frowned. He didn't know how to answer. Zephyr was clearly against him before, but now looking at Zephyr's attitude, it is obvious that he is not lying, and there is no need to lie to him, so he doesn't understand what Zephyr really means. Sakazuki, your justice has gone on a crooked road. When Sakazuki was puzzled, Zephyr said solemnly, in order to achieve the goal, even one's own people can sacrifice. In order to buy people's hearts, violate military discipline at will, and use the spoils. In order to cover up his own faults, he chose to use bigger ones. To make up for his fault, completely ignoring the superior and the consequences. Sakazuki, you are not just doing this. Sakazuki frowned. Although Zephyr said very harshly and made him uncomfortable, when you think about it carefully, what Zephyr said is correct. His purpose is indeed the same, but he himself doesn't think there is any problem with doing this. His opinion of himself is like this, he is not a virgin, and he is not a perfect person, so why bother to care about what others think? Teacher Zephyr, everyone has a different understanding of justice. Perhaps in your opinion, my justice is biased, but I don't think there is a problem. My starting point is to be able to eradicate pirates. I don't think there is mistaken. You are really stubborn. Zephyr yelled at Sakazuki angrily, it is correct to eradicate the pirates, but you can't sacrifice others to eradicate the pirates. Furthermore, you feel that you rescued Harrington Vice Admiral from Whitebeard. It's you. Do you have any skills? The reason why Whitebeard is released is not because you can speak well, nor is it because of your condition that moved him, but because of naval headquarters and because of the world government. No matter how powerful Whitebeard is, he is just a pirate. In such a situation, he is absolutely impossible to actually kill people. The Marshal asks you to negotiate with him, and more just to hold him down, because of the Whitebeard pirate group. Exposing his site, Sengoku has already begun to mobilize troops and only needs a suitable opportunity to take action against the Whitebeard pirates. The Marshal just wants to try your abilities through this thing. It is a good thing to be able to face Whitebeard. Even if you don't go, he won't really punish you, but you are kind of self-righteous. You really think you have the ability to make Whitebeard jealous. In the end, the Marine G1 branch was withdrawn from New World, and Marines suffered a huge loss. Listening to Zephyr's anger, Sakazuki's heart was shaken. His first reaction was to disbelieve, because Sora gave them an urgent call to make them negotiate with Whitebeard. As a result, when they came to Zephyr, they still have this meaning. Naval Headquarters is ready to write. The Whitebeard pirates do it. Zephyr snorted coldly. You know you don't believe it by looking at you, but things have already happened. It doesn't make sense to say this. You only need to know that this time you seem to force Whitebeard to let go, but in fact it is not cheap at all. Accounted for, instead, Whitebeard did not do anything and gained a huge reputation. If that's the case, it's fine for you. In order to cover up this matter, you actually launched the ridiculous plan of the Pirate Four Emperors, and even announced Whitebeard as the first pirate emperor. You think you are very smart? Doing this is to put Whitebeard on the fire? HMPH, you just did this to make Whitebeard even more proud. Who in New World can stop him from becoming the king of pirates? The more Zephyr said, the darker Sakazuki's face became. According to Zephyr, all his actions were wrong. It was simply a wrong step, and self-righteous remedy. In fact, Whitebeard was fulfilled. Once Whitebeard became a C, the Four Emperors, the thief, dominated countless pirates and formed a great power. It was even more difficult for the naval headquarters to destroy him. The Four Emperors of Pirates, although it is extremely absurd, but I also have to admire your wit and response. I can actually think of this kind of plan. If I don't know you well, I really think you are a pirate faction. To Marine's undercover agent, and, don't push this to Dragon's body, you think everyone else is stupid, don't you see this? At the end of the reprimand, Zephyr suddenly calmed down and sighed, after all, it's just one thing. You are too young and too self-righteous, so you will make a decision when your head is hot, But this is human nature, compared to the lazy Paluzolino and the overly stable Kuzan. Although your approach is too extreme, you have to be more responsible. Sakazuki couldn't believe his ears when he heard Zephyr praise himself unexpectedly. Is this Zephyr? You must know that in the meeting room yesterday, Zephyr looked like he really wanted to kill him, all kinds of sarcasm, just to make him ambush. As a result, Zephyr actually praised him. This style of painting is really very wrong. Humph. Zephyr snorted again and said, I know what you are thinking. Do you think I shouldn't have this attitude? It's normal to target you like yesterday. I targeted you yesterday because you did make a mistake. I also suspected that you and Long Li Yingwei had killed Colonel Jeremy, but your reaction yesterday told me that this was not the case. The contrast between Zephyr's front and back was too great, and Sakazuki couldn't react. He couldn't figure out which Zephyr's true face was. He vaguely felt that the Zephyr in front of him might be the real Zephyr. You, Kuzan and Paluzolino, the three of you are all my students. I know your potential very well. Compared to Paluzolino, which only pays attention to fruit ability, you and Kuzan are both my favorites, so I don't want any of you to go down a crooked road. Sakazuki's heart was slightly touched. As Zephyr, no one would say anything even if it was against him, but at this time Zephyr actually said these words with a heart-to-heart, enough to change Zephyr's feeling in his heart. But even with some improvement, Sakazuki insisted on his own ideas and said, I don't think my ideas are wrong. I may not be able to satisfy everyone when I do things, but as long as I think it is for the good of most people, I will go on unswervingly. Seeing that Sakazuki didn't mean to repent at all, Zephyr suddenly became a little unhappy. He said in a deep voice, Sakazuki, do you know what your biggest problem is? Zephyr has already said a lot of questions, so when he hears these words, Sakazuki feels very depressed. How come he is full of questions in Zephyr's eyes? Zephyr saw that Sakazuki didn't say anything, so he said to himself, your biggest problem is too much gambling. Look at the things you have done recently. Which one is not gambling? When the Golden Lion attacked, you didn't think so much. I just feel that my abilities can be used to make waves, but have you considered whether, what if you fail? When negotiating with Whitebeard, you were even betting. You definitely never thought about what will happen to Whitebeard if you anger, or you have thought about it, but you didn't take it seriously. You are not afraid of death. Are people willing to die with you? At the time, if you fight with the Whitebeard pirates, how many people will you escape? Because of your own decision, the finest vice admiral of the younger generation of Marine will die. What is the loss? A Harrington vice admiral is no longer important. Is it more important than you guys? As for you privately distributing the pirate trophies, have you considered, if someone really betrays you, what will you end up? Let alone the proposal of the pirate 4 emperors, it is really a bad move, and still the stinky chess that failed the bet. Hearing that Zephyr was worthless, Sakazuki did not refute, because what Zephyr said was not wrong. His several decisions were indeed gambling, but he didn't think he was wrong. Since you don't think you were wrong, let's take a gamble, how about it? Zephyr said. Got a gamble? Sakazuki looked at Zephyr in astonishment. Zephyr actually wanted to take a gamble with him. What rhythm is this? Zephyr said. Yes, you are now transferred to my hands, but I don't want to do anything to you, because then you will not be convinced. Since you like to gamble, then we will take a gamble, dare you? Zephyr's novel statement made Sakazuki interested. If Zephyr targeted him and reprimanded him as before, he would naturally be very upset, but Zephyr actually said that he wanted to gamble with him, which made him very interested. How to bet? What to bet? Zephyr said, I'm just an old man who teaches and educates people. I don't have any other skills. I only have the ability to teach and educate people. So we don't bet on anything else, just bet on this, do you dare? Sakazuki is not so easy to be agitated, but he is really interested in what Zephyr said, so he asked, gamble on the ability to teach and educate people. How is this gamble? He really didn't figure it out. How to bet on this thing? Zephyr said, you don't think that teaching and educating people is a very easy and simple thing. I have been doing this for decades, and I dare not say that I am an excellent educator, and I bet on this aspect. I bet on others to see more level and ability, because it tests not only a person's strength, but also endurance, method, and willpower. Not everyone can teach well. Of course, I am definitely more experienced than you in this aspect. After all, I have been an instructor for decades. If you don't want to compare this, we can also change one. Sakazuki just thought about it for a short time, and then replied, there is no need to change it, but how to bet, you can talk about it. It wasn't that he was too arrogant, but he felt that since Zephyr made this bet, then even if he was allowed to make the decision, in the final analysis, he was a very proud person in his bones, and he also felt that he would win. Seeing that Sakazuki didn't hesitate, he agreed. Zephyr didn't have any surprises. He has been teaching and educating people for so many years, and he is still very accurate. He knows that as long as he proposes it, he will definitely not refuse with Sakazuki's character. See those people? Zephyr pointed to the recruits in the training ground and said to Sakazuki. Sakazuki nodded, and then Zephyr continued. My gambling method is very simple. This group of recruits are soldiers who have just joined Marine this year. At the age of 2, they should have entered the military academy, but because of this bet, I brought them here. Sakazuki raised his brows and asked, You mean, our bet has something to do with them? Zephyr said. Yes, teaching and educating people is not a simple thing, nor is it a thing that can see results in a short time, so I chose 60 people, you and I each choose 30 people, and then I personally guided the training for 3 years. After 3 years, I will gather again to have a fair showdown. It will be clear who wins and who loses. Are you asking me to train recruits for you? Sakazuki reacted immediately. Zephyr had deliberately asked him to train soldiers, but now he thought that he had been transferred to Zephyr's subordinates. If he didn't agree, there would be no errands waiting for him, so he nodded. I agree to this gambling method. Good. Zephyr nodded. Sakazuki's answer was not what he expected, and said, The gambling method is what I just said. There are 60 recruits. You and I will choose 30 people. You and I will train separately. Of course, you can also find someone else to help you train. After 3 years, the recruit you and I choose will be the matchup. The outcome depends on this matchup. How about? 3 years has been a bit long, but now he has been temporarily demoted and there is nothing else, so Sakazuki thinks this is also a choice to pass the time. These 60 recruits have joined Marine in the last 6 months. Now they can only be regarded as students. I haven't had much contact with them, so I just have a rough idea of how they are. Choose. Zephyr said to Sakazuki. Sakazuki pondered for a moment. To tell the truth, apart from his better understanding of the plot of Pirate World, he actually doesn't look at people very well. Even if these recruits are placed in front of him, he doesn't think he can pick the best. Excellent, so. Just be fair, there is a list of these 60 people, just pick 30. Since he can't see the pros and cons, he just chooses blindly. In his opinion, unless it is a genius with overwhelming talents, whoever chooses is the same. The key depends on the ability of the instructor, and as far as he knows in the next generation of Marine, it seems that there are no outstanding talents. At least there are few perverts like him, Kuzan and Peluzolino. Such a casual selection method really surprised Zephyr. The reason why he let Sakazuki choose first is to be fair. After all, he has been the Marine chief instructor for so many years, and his eyesight must be much higher than that of Sakazuki. Sakazuki picks first, he chooses to stay. This is fair. It's just that he didn't expect that Sakazuki would choose blind selection, so he instinctively thought that Sakazuki was too proud. Good. Zephyr agreed with Sakazuki's choice, and then randomly selected 30 people and gave it to Sakazuki. These 30 people are now yours. How to train is up to you. I took the remaining 30 people. But you are now banned and cannot take people out of Marineford. I will send someone to notify you if something happens. Although Sakazuki was relegated to Zephyr's men, Zephyr obviously had no intention of revenge. After a few words with Sakazuki, he left the training ground with another 30 people. Although Zephyr left, he left Sakazuki with a colonel officer who was also one of the instructors. He gathered the remaining 30 recruits together and gave the list to Sakazuki. After Sakazuki's list of results, he looked at it seriously. At this look, he really found a few familiar names. Yukimura. This seems to have become Marine General, and he is a personal talent on top of the Marine Rear Admiral who rescued Kirby during the war. T-Pen. This Sakazuki is also a little influential, because he has more characteristics. He is the Colonel Naval Headquarters who is responsible for escorting Robin. He looks terrifying, has one tooth less, and has a sense of recognition, and it seems that he belongs to Marine and has more justice sense. Shion. This is also a small well-known Marine colonel, who is capable of rusty fruit, and has fought with the Straw Hat Pirates. In addition to these names and surnames, there are some people, such as Branu, etc., but these people do not appear much in the plot, but it is undeniable that they are later Marine elites. There are so many celebrities in the story of the 30 people who stayed behind, and there must be some celebrities among the 30 people who were taken away by Zephyr. At least they will not be worse than those of him. The quality of recruits is really good, and at the same time, you can see how venomous Zephyr's vision is. There are definitely a lot of people who sign up to join Marine every year and become recruits. These elites can be selected keenly from so many people. It is no wonder that Zephyr can become the general instructor and remain unchanged for decades, especially the naval headquarters 20 years later. Among them, many generals are Zephyr's disciples, and this skill is absolutely unique among naval headquarters. It feels a little fooled. Sakazuki faintly felt bad, and he agreed too quickly. Zephyr was much better than he thought. He felt like he was calculated. Of course, even if he had this idea in his mind, Sakazuki did not regret his decision. There is no calculation for this kind of thing. Taking a deep breath, Sakazuki stopped thinking about it, but turned his eyes to the 30 Marine recruits in front of him. Hello. Starting from today, I am your new instructor. You should not know me very well, so I will introduce myself first. These 30 people are the key to his bet with Zephyr, so he will naturally be patient. I am Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Sakazuki. You can call me by my name, or you can call me instructor, but anyway, from today at first, all of you will be under my control. Do you understand? I understand. Although 30 people are recruits, there are males and females, but after all they have been in Naval Headquarters for a while and they have somewhat adapted, but when answering Sakazuki, the voices are scattered and not neat. Sakazuki raised his brows, his expression was very dissatisfied, and said coldly, I didn't hear clearly, please answer me again. Understood. It's much better than just now, but it's still not neat, so Sakazuki's face is colder, and he shouted. You make me very dissatisfied. Everyone listened to the order, immediately ran 3 laps around the training ground, immediately execute. What? The recruits didn't expect Sakazuki to be so sharp. Before he said a few words, he made people run around, so they were all embarrassed. Now Sakazuki is even more dissatisfied. He shouted coldly again. Did you not hear my order? Run a lap immediately, and add another lap for 4 laps. If anyone dares to talk nonsense, then. He didn't say anything about the rest, but the recruits didn't understand anything. They all ran quickly. Fear value from Xian, plus 86. Fear value from Zelsi, plus 127. Fear value from T-Pen, plus 57. Fear score from Branu, plus 93. In just a few words, 13 of the 30 people actually provided him with a fear value, which made Sakazuki, who was already cold-faced, suddenly startled, and then he was overjoyed. This wave is not a loss. Why didn't I expect that the fear value can also be obtained in this way? In fact, Sakazuki initially resisted Sora's transfer of him to Zephyr's hands. However, the exchange with Zephyr just now made him discover the different side of Zephyr. It feels okay. As for betting with punishment, it is also a kind of living under boredom. But at this moment, he was really overjoyed. He had just become an instructor, and this was the first time he met, and he provided him with hundreds of fear points. As long as the majesty is established in the future, the fear value will definitely increase continuously. Which made him immediately interested in the next 3-year training. I remember, our new instructor seems to be the vice admiral that was discussed yesterday. I heard that he was punished, so he was demoted to become an instructor. He used to be a very powerful man. Really, is he really that powerful? But he looks really scary. It's much tougher than the instructor we've encountered before. Let us run laps without saying a word. It's too tough. Stop screaming. Let's run laps if you have the strength, but you have to run 4 laps. Don't be too pessimistic. I have also heard that this person is particularly powerful. He is a big man who can become Marine Admiral. We must train under him and it will definitely be better than other people. The running recruits were all talking while running, but their discussions didn't last long. The running track of this training ground, if 1 lap, is at least a kilometer, and if 4 laps, it is 4 to 5 kilometers. Even people from the pirate world have good physical fitness, but they can come down such a long distance. The 30 recruits are all too tired to breathe. Looking at the recruiting eggs in front of him, a sense of superiority came to my heart. He used to be trained by others, but now he has become a trained person. Especially seeing the miserable appearance of this group of recruits and the slow increase in fear value. Sakazuki's heart is really getting better and better. After letting this group of recruits rest for about 10 minutes, Sakazuki said again, everyone must gather immediately. Seeing how Sakazuki's great recruits dared to ink, they all stood in the queue quickly. Too slow. After everyone stood still, Sakazuki snorted very dissatisfiedly, and yelled, if on the battlefield, at such a slow speed as you would have been killed by the enemy long ago, I would be very dissatisfied with you. Listening to Sakazuki's reprimand, these 30 recruits all have different expressions. At this time, they all felt that the cold man in front of them was really too harsh and unreasonable. They just ran 4 laps. Tired too much, the speed of natural arrangement is much slower. Sakazuki shouted. I know that some of you may disagree, but I'm sorry. Now you are trained by me. I am different from your previous instructor. Since you have chosen to join Marine, then I will never be merciful to you. I will train you fiercely, squeeze out all your potential, and make you the most elite soldiers. The 30 Marine recruits present couldn't help feeling that their backs were chilling. But I give you the right to choose. If you don't want to train under me, you can leave now, but if you choose to stay, but you can't hold back and want to quit during the training process, you can, but that's the case. It is destined that you will not go far in Marine, because no boss will like deserters. In 3 years, you are different from the other recruits. You have to be under me for 3 years, so you must think carefully. Now I will give you 5 minutes of thinking time. If you want to leave, go by yourself. No one will despise you because of this. Now the countdown begins. After Sakazuki finished speaking, 30 recruits looked at each other. This instructor was really different from the instructors they had been in contact with before. This tone was full of sternness and warning. 5 minutes passed and none of the 30 people left. I have to say that the quality of the recruits selected by Zephyr is really good. At least the current state makes Sakazuki very satisfied. Very well. Since you all chose to stay, it means you accepted me, but you'd better prepare yourself, because the next 3 years will be unforgettable days in your life, Listening to Sakazuki's last expression and laughter, the recruits felt even worse. Before this, I will give you 3 days of free rest. After 3 days, I will still gather here and disband now. Sakazuki turned around and left quickly, leaving only the recruits who looked at each other. You actually gave us 3 days off. Everyone was ready to accept the challenge, but I didn't expect Sakazuki to let them take a 3-day break first. If it was normal, they would be happy to get a 3-day break, but they would be happy when they thought of Sakazuki's warning just now. Can't get up. I feel that the most important thing we should do right now is not to do anything else, but to inquire about the adults' situation. The recruits all dispersed and went to the veterans to inquire about Sakazuki. In less than half a day, they gathered again, but everyone's faces were very ugly. It's over, we are really over. A 15 or 6-year-old boy shouted panicked. 30 of them also got along for a while, and they all knew each other, but now no one laughed at this young man, because everyone else had the same idea. I didn't expect our new instructor to be such a terrifying person. It seems that what he said to us before is true. He wants to train us to death. Why didn't I think about leaving before? Some people are complaining, but some people say with disdain, leave. I think you can leave now, as long as you go and talk to the Lord Sakazuki. He will definitely let you leave, but do you dare to go? Suddenly, the person who just said that he wanted to leave stopped speaking. If it were before, he might leave, but now after hearing about Sakazuki's deeds, how dare he say to leave? A young man with long hair said in a deep voice, what's wrong? Although Lord Sakazuki's reputation is not very good, he is a powerful figure in the naval headquarters ranks. It is a lot to be able to practice under him. We should feel lucky for things that people can't ask for. I think so too. The covered-faced boy nodded in agreement. Soon other people agreed. The recruits who complained before were gradually infected. In the final analysis, most of them are teenagers and have not yet experienced the real big horror. People say that they are naturally easy to be affected by other people. Infect. Fear from Cross. Plus 167. From. Sakazuki received a lot of fear points while sitting at home. After thinking about it, he knew that these fear points must come from those recruits. As expected, he received fear points from acquaintances. These fear points are continuous. Yes, although it is getting less and less, it makes him very happy. This is a way to increase the value of fear for a long time. Although I have never done training recruits, there are still so many methods in my memory. With the addition of ghost spiders, training a group of recruits should not be very difficult. For Sakazuki, it is not difficult to train recruits, because he has many training methods in his memory. Although people in this world have very good physical fitness, the training methods should not be outdated, and it is enough to increase the number of training methods. Moreover, there are people like ghost spiders under his command. You must know that his private army is selected and practiced by ghost spiders alone. This experience is definitely very good. Anyway, they don't have other tasks now. Put these recruits together with the private army. Training is also completely possible. But Sakazuki also knows a problem. It is basically impossible to defeat those people trained by Zephyr by relying on conventional training methods. Ghost spiders may be able to train. He also has good methods. But Zephyr is in this industry. After decades of work, the experience is much more sophisticated than them. I haven't seen that many officers in naval headquarters are his disciples, and most of them are elite soldiers. Does Sakazuki have any reaction? In the office of Marshal Naval Headquarters, Sora asked Zephyr in front of him. Zephyr replied. There is no other reaction. Apart from other things, he is still a soldier and knows to obey orders. Sora was a little surprised. He originally thought that Sakazuki would be very resistant to being transferred to Zephyr, but it didn't seem to be what he thought. He thought about it and said, Sakazuki has had a very big impact this time, and New World has been messed up. As a pot of porridge, our Marine's prestige has been greatly lost. At this time, we can no longer continue large-scale activities in New World. Speaking of New World, he is really a headache. Today's New World is extremely chaotic. The pirates are like crazy, and the impact caused by Roger's words before his death is not much different. Roger is letting more people have become pirates, and the appearance of the 4 Emperor's pirates makes those ambitious pirates crazy. Zephyr said, this chaos is foreseeable, but sooner or later it will calm down. Kong hummed. Sooner or later. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or longer. Sakazuki really caused us a huge trouble. I have received news. In this short period of time, Whitebeard has gathered some pirate forces and increased at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it will soon become a big trouble. The power of the pirates has increased, but they can only watch, and there is no way to contain it, which makes him very unhappy. Zephyr said. It is too late to say this. Although the Pirate Four Emperors has endless troubles, for now, it still has some effects. At least the civilians of New World are better than those in New World, and they can also consume the Sea of New World. Thief. Sora sighed. He is now facing the process of abdication, thinking that he is about to leave the position of Marshal Marine, but finally left such a big trouble. Of course he feels uncomfortable. Speaking of which, Sakazuki is a young man I am very optimistic about, but I didn't expect him to cause trouble so much. That's what he said, but he hadn't thought about it. If he hadn't given Sakazuki orders like that, Sakazuki wouldn't take the risk. He actually had part of the responsibility. Zephyr said. I made a bet with him, hoping to temper his character. He is indeed a bit too extreme. If he can change his mind, he will become even better. Sora said. I still trust your vision. I will give Sakazuki to you. I am more at ease. I hope your ideas will work. The transfer of Sakazuki to Zephyr was decided by the two of them. One is because Sakazuki did something wrong and must be punished. In addition, they wanted to temper Sakazuki's character and change his extreme thinking. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. The recruits gathered at the training ground very early in order to give Sakazuki a good impression. In the past 3 days, they have not given up asking about Sakazuki, but the more they heard, the more they became confused. Their new instructor is definitely a cruel person, so they want to use the best face it with spirit. Sakazuki did not come alone this time, but came with the Ghost Spider and Lucas. He is the instructor in charge, but it is impossible to train with this group of recruits all the time. He has to use time to practice on his own, so he is going to hand over the tasks of usual supervision to Ghost Spider and Lucas. Seeing 30 recruits standing there neatly, Sakazuki was quite satisfied, but his face was still cold, and he walked in front of these people. In 3 days, you should have inquired about my information and know what kind of person I am, but even so, you are still standing here a lot. I just want to say a word about this. Sakazuki showed a terrifying smile. You are done. Hiss. Recruiters who were a little scared at first saw Sakazuki's cold and grim expression, and their hearts were even more hairy, and fear grew spontaneously. Fear score from Branu. +25. From. Suddenly received more than 100 fear points, and the smile on the corner of Sakazuki's mouth became even more hideous. A few words like this can gain fear points. It is much better and easier than killing and abuse of people, so he has now have regarded this group of recruits as the most important source of their fear value. If you want to be a good soldier, it is definitely impossible not to endure hardship. The two next to me are my lieutenants, and they will supervise your training in the future. If you are not serious in training, I will let you experience what hell is. Now, the warm-up training officially begins. Everyone obeys the order. 5 laps of the training track, start immediately. Sakazuki didn't say any nonsense. He started training as soon as he came up, and he was still warming up for 5 laps. The recruits are all looking down. They ran 4 laps when they met 3 days ago, and 5 laps at the beginning of today. Does this instructor like to let people run so much? Although I was spitting out in my heart, no one dared to say more. They all started running and stopped after 5 laps to stand back on the team. Your performance today is much better than 3 days ago, but it is still too slow, which makes me very dissatisfied. Sakazuki scolded with a grim expression. It's so slow to run all laps. What's the use of you? In the next 3 years, I will use the cruelest and most demanding way to train you, so you all have to be mentally prepared. Prepare, because my training is likely to be deadly. When he said the dead, many recruits suddenly became very frightened, and another wave of fear fell into his arms, which made him very satisfied. Now, all of you have listened to me clearly. Train according to my requirements. There will be an assessment period every month. If I can't meet my requirements, I will have hundreds of methods to let you know the consequences. After being intimidated for a while, Sakazuki gave the task of training to the Ghost Spider and Lucas. For this kind of thing, the Ghost Spider has long been practiced, and even the veteran can train well, let alone the recruit of this group of raw melon eggs. Sakazuki stepped aside and watched the Ghost Spider training these recruits. His face was always cold, making the recruits afraid to make a second, and all nervously started training according to the Ghost Spider's requirements. Sakazuki's mood is still very good looking at the constantly rising fear value in the system. Day after day training, Sakazuki didn't waste time either. He himself practiced non-stop. After contacting Whitebeard, he knew his shortcomings, and his strength was still a little bit behind the peak of the strong, so improving strength is a top priority. In an instant, more than a year passed. During this time, Sakazuki has been staying at Marineford's naval headquarters. Even if he goes out in peacetime, he has never been out of Marineford. At the beginning, Sakazuki found that someone had been watching him. He knew it was Sora or Zephyr sent someone to stare at him, but after 3 months, the feeling of being watched disappeared. Nothing happened during the first half of the Grand Line for more than a year, but New World has never been calm during this period. To be precise, after Sakazuki proposed the Pirate 4 Emperors, New World it has never been calm. But so far, only one Pirate 4 Emperors has been identified, and that is Whitebeard of the Whitebeard Pirates. Whitebeard is Whitebeard directly nominated by Sakazuki. In the past year or so, there have been countless challenges, but none all exceptions have failed, so Whitebeard has become the recognized first emperor. In addition to Whitebeard, there are countless pirate groups in New World, but none of them can become the 4 Emperors pirate group like Whitebeard. It will take a while to become 4 Emperors after Whitebeard. New World's pirate groups that are eligible to compete for the 4 Emperors, for now, there are at least a dozen, such as Beast's Pirates, Big Mom Pirates, Gecko Moria, and other large pirates. Group, let alone other. These pirate groups are very powerful, much stronger than the so-called 11 Supernova pirate group 20 years later. Take Gecko Moria of this period as an example. In One Piece's comics, Gecko Moria 20 years later is definitely a rookie, but Moria is different now. He is definitely one of the most powerful characters in New World. The fact that his pirate group is eligible to compete for the 4 Emperors can explain the problem. In addition to Moria's pirate group strength, his personal strength is also very strong, ranking on the Marine Wanted list. All of them are numbered. Moria now belongs to the period of high spirits. It has not been defeated by Kaido, the Beast. He will not fall until he is defeated by Kaido. 20 years later, he is not even as strong as in this period. Although New World is gradually out of control, most parts of the world are still under the control of the world government. One thing that made Sakazuki pay attention to is that the dragon has never appeared since he fought with him and left. Although the world government has asked CP0 to hunt for the dragon with all its strength, there is no trace of it, even those of the Revolutionary Army. The whereabouts of people are also completely missing. There are still more than a year and a half in the 3-year period, but the 30 recruits at the beginning have been completely reborn under the training of ghost spiders. They have been promoted from recruits. Although they have not been awarded a military rank, they are definitely compared to ordinary marine soldiers to be much better. What satisfies Sakazuki the most is that for more than a year, under his devil training, these recruits have provided him with a lot of fear points, more than 180,000 fear points, because Sakazuki has not been out, so these he has been accumulating the fear value and has not used it. The fear value of 180,000 looks a lot, but in fact, in Sakazuki's opinion, it is the same thing. You must know that he has been training for more than a year, and someone will provide him with fear every day, more than 400 days of fear. The value adds up to 180,000, and on average, there are more than 400 fear points every day, and a lot of fear points are provided in the early stage. The fear of these recruits has basically been squeezed out by him. Now even if he trains in the harshest and coldest way, he can only get a small amount of fear. Not only is the quality of recruits improved, Sakazuki's own strength has also improved a lot. Even if he does not use the system, he can still feel that his strength is constantly improving, especially for armament hockey. Without using the system, he is already on the original basis. It has become a lot stronger. In the past, after systematic improvement, he was able to cover armament hockey on natural elemental magma, but the range was limited. But now, he can cover armament hockey half of his body with magma, but it's only a distance from the effect he wants. There is still a big gap, because now it is getting harder and harder to improve. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, the Marshal wants you to find him. An empty soldier suddenly appeared on the training ground and said to Sakazuki. Sakazuki was startled. He had been idle for more than a year. At the beginning, he saw Peluzalino and Kuzan and others making contributions. He was still very anxious, but as time passed, he had calmed down. He believes that with his own abilities and strength, there are not many in the naval headquarters, and it is impossible to be idle like this forever. Now that Sora ordered his soldiers to come to him, it was obviously a signal that Sora was about to re-enable him. Although he didn't know what was going on, it was definitely a good sign for him for now. I see, I will go with you now, called the Ghost Spider and Lucas to give a call, and then left with the excited expressions of the two. The Ghost Spider and Lucas looked at each other, and they both saw the joy in each other's eyes. Like Sakazuki, they had no tasks for more than a year and had been training recruits. They were already impatient. Now they see Sakazuki being caught when the Marshal summoned him. He was naturally very excited. Marshal. Sakazuki knocked on the door and entered the empty office. He found that besides the empty office, there was another person. He also said hello, Sengoku Admiral. Sora saw him coming in, waved to him, told him to sit next to Sengoku, and then said, Sakazuki, I haven't left Marineford for more than a year. Are you impatient? Sakazuki replied, It's okay, it's rare to have such a peaceful day. Kong asked in surprise, Do you like this day? Sakazuki immediately shook his head and said, How is it possible? How can I rest securely in this world? A short break is okay. If this continues, I will definitely not be able to do it. Ha ha. Sora burst into laughter when he heard that, then pointed to Sakazuki and said to Sengoku, I see, Sengoku, I know this kid will say that. Although I didn't show it, I can still see that this kid is treating me. I'm not very satisfied with the arrangement. This is what I told me on purpose. Sengoku was also laughing on the sidelines, but they didn't laugh for long, and Sora recovered soon. Talk to business. Sakazuki, this time I called you, because there is a task assigned to you. Sakazuki's spirit was shocked. He hasn't had a mission for more than a year. If it is an ordinary mission, Sora will definitely not call him, and it must be a mission that needs to leave Marineford, so he immediately asked, You said. Empty waved his hand and said, Let Sengoku tell you. Now everyone at Naval Headquarters knows that Sengoku is the default next marshal, and will soon be in that position. Now in the process of handing over the two, Sengoku is responsible for most of Naval Headquarters now, only Sengoku will discuss with Sora when he is undecided. Sengoku was not polite, and said to Sakazuki, This time the mission is very important, so I decided to enable you. The implication is that because of an important task, I came to you. I hope you will not let me down. At the same time, it also emphasizes that you are very important and we are very optimistic about you. Sakazuki nodded and waited for Sengoku to continue. Not long ago, a very bad thing happened, but before talking about it, you also need to understand the cause and effect. It is about the historical texts left over hundreds of years ago. These historical texts are very important. Once they are reproduced in the world, it will definitely cause violent shocks to the world and cause chaos in the world. Therefore, for the stability of the world government strictly prohibits anyone from touching those historical texts. Sakazuki, who had been listening very seriously, suddenly became serious after hearing these words. It was actually a historical text. When it comes to this, he can't guess what it is. If it counts time, it is indeed time. This stage. But he sneered at what Sengoku said. It was true that he didn't know anything about the stability of the world, so that no one was allowed to touch the historical texts. It was obviously that these historical texts touched their taboos and secrets. That's why I don't want the world to know. Sengoku and Sora may not know all of these things, but they obviously know a little bit, but now they don't want to tell him, obviously they are also guarding him. But under such strict orders, there are still people who dare to offend. An expedition team appeared from Ohara. Their purpose is to find historical texts scattered around the world. It is said that they have found a lot of historical texts and it is recorded that this matter has been investigated since it was known from above. Coincidentally, this expedition was discovered not long ago by the marine warship led by our Marine Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral. They executed the order and strangled the expedition, and finally captured a key character, ready to transport her back to Naval Headquarters. But no one thought that the accident happened. Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral actually rebelled at this time. He rescued the only survivor of the Ohara expedition. This incident caused a very bad impact. Sakazuki asked, So, you want me to chase Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral? Sengoku shook his head and said, No, after the survivor escaped. It means that the information has been passed on, so I'm ready to issue a buster call. The target is Ohara Island. I was planning to let Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral also becomes one of Buster Call's choices, but since he has defected, he doesn't need him anymore. Buster Call. Although he knew this would be the result for a long time, when he heard it in person, he was still very surprised. Is he already going to make a Buster Call to Ohara? That's an entire island. Sengoku nodded and said, For the sake of the peace of the world, these archaeologists must never be allowed to pass on the information, so the necessary sacrifices are still needed. Sakazuki asked solemnly, Is it an entire island? Sengoku said, You must ensure that the message cannot be delivered at all. You should be clear about how to do it, right? This is the best chance to get out of the current situation, so of course Sakazuki will not refuse. He nodded and said, I know what to do. Who else is there besides me? There are a total of 5 Vice Admiral participating in the Buster Call. He is one of them. He still wants to know who the other 4 are. Sengoku said, In addition to you, there are Kuzan, Flying Squirrels, Doberman and Huashaoshan. Sora also said at this time, Sakazuki, this time we decided to lead you. This time the incident is a direct order from 5 elders. If you can handle this matter properly, I can lift your footsteps. What was waiting for was this sentence. Sakazuki answered without hesitation, No problem, when will we act? Sengoku said, Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral and the survivor Nicole Orovia have disappeared for a while. In order to prevent accidents, you must act as soon as possible. I have notified others and you will go to West tomorrow together. Blue. By the way, besides you, CP9 of the world government will also participate in this incident. They are mainly responsible for searching Ohara Island. You have to cooperate with each other, understand? Sakazuki frowned when he heard this. He didn't have any good feelings for CP0. They had been in contact with the Ace mother and son before, and he killed those people in the end. Although it was not CP0 this time, CP9 it is not much better than CP0. However, he is also clear that Ohara is a point of great concern to the world government, and he must send someone they trust, and he also knows that the CP9 person who participated in the Ohara incident this time is the person who captured Nico Robin in the plot. Father, Spandane. Remember, this incident is very important, there must be no mistakes. Finally, Sora ordered again. After Sakazuki left, Sora and Sengoku sat together and chatted again. Sakazuki hasn't been tasked for more than a year, is it okay to leave this to him? Sengoku asked. Sora said, this matter is the best choice for Sakazuki. As for what you are worried about, there is no problem at all. His abilities are obvious to all, and his personality is just right for this task. Sengoku sighed, I don't know how many innocent people will suffer this time. Sora condensed, and said in a deep voice, Sengoku, put away your unnecessary sympathy. I will retire from the position of marshal in the near future, and you will succeed in that time. At this time, you must show your ability. This matter was personally accounted for by 5 elders. The handover between the two is approaching the final moment, and the empty back path has also been decided. He has discussed with 5 elders. After resigning as Marshal Marine, he will become the Commander-in-Chief of the Holy Land Mariajoy, a higher position than Marshal Naval Headquarters, and Sengoku naturally took over as the Marshal of Naval Headquarters. After Sakazuki left, he immediately returned to the previous training ground and called both the Ghost Spider and Lucas. Sakazuki, what did the Marshal call you for? Is there a mission? The Ghost Spider asked. Sakazuki nodded and said, Buster Call. Buster Call? Upon hearing these 3 words, Ghost Spider and Lucas both changed their faces. Ghost Spider was surprised and asked, what's the situation? Buster Call will be launched. Is there any major accident? Next, Sakazuki told them all about Ohara. This is a very good opportunity. Ghost Spider said excitedly, as long as we complete this mission, we will be able to lift the ban, and I recently heard that Marshal Sora is not long before he retires as Marshal. Now, Sengoku Admiral will soon succeed the Naval Headquarters Marshal, and 2 Marine Admiral positions will be vacated at once. Sakazuki said, don't think about the position of Marine Admiral for the time being, it's not that easy. Although he knows that he will become Marine Admiral sooner or later, there should be little chance at this period. After all, he made a big mistake more than a year ago. Even if the Buster Call is done well this time, it is not enough to become Marine Admiral all at once, so Sakazuki not too anxious. Sakazuki gathered the 30 recruits who were still training, and said coldly, give you a 1-month break, and gather here again in a month. I will put you to a test. If you can't satisfy me, the amount of training will be doubled in the future, understand? Because Buster Call dispatched 5 Marine Vice Admiral, plus 10,000 Marine Vice Admiral soldiers and 10 warships, so in addition to each Marine Vice Admiral carrying his own private soldiers, he also brought thousands of elite soldiers, ghosts. Spiders and others will naturally follow him, so naturally there will be no more time to train these people. 30 people were very happy when they heard that Sakazuki said to let them rest for a month at first, because since Sakazuki's hand, more than a year has been hell-style training. They have not had a rest. Mental exhaustion. But because Sakazuki is too strong, they dare not say anything. Now they can have a rest, and it's still a month, so they are naturally very excited. It's just that after hearing the test a month later, their excitement suddenly cooled down. Although they don't know what the test Sakazuki is talking about, it's definitely not easy from their understanding of getting along for more than a year. Especially if Sakazuki can't be satisfied, this kind of training should be doubled. This is what scares them the most. From another wave of fear hits, Sakazuki didn't say anything. Just let Lucas continue to communicate with the 30 soldiers, and he left the training ground with the Ghost Spider. Marine's action speed is still very fast. By the next day, 10 large warships were ready, and nearly 10,000 Marine soldiers gathered at the port, waiting to board the ship. Sakazuki and other 5 Vice Admiral also arrived at the port on time, and everyone took their private soldiers with them. Sakazuki, I didn't expect to be able to go out with you this time, haha. The 5 Vice Admiral are all acquaintances, but the one who has the best relationship with Sakazuki belongs to Doberman. The other Kuzan, Huashaoshan and Flying Squirrel greet Sakazuki, but they are not as enthusiastic as Doberman. Speaking of which, of the 5 Vice Admiral dispatched this time, 3 of them belong to the same sect, Sakazuki, Kuzan, and Flying Squirrel. All three of them are Zephyr's disciples. Among them, although the other flying squirrel is also a disciple of Zephyr, he is actually a hawk in marine, and he is not very familiar with Sakazuki, but their political views are similar, but he is slightly better than the extreme Sakazuki. Huashaoshan is a moderate vice admiral, with a relatively mild personality. He has a good relationship with Kuzan. In the future, he will be the same as Doberman. He belongs to vice admiral and has a higher status than the ordinary marine vice admiral. If Sakazuki is correct, if this is the case, this one should belong to Kuzan in the future. Doberman has not stayed away because Sakazuki was demoted for more than a year. The two often get together when they have time, so the relationship is also very good. He knows that Sakazuki is taking the lead this time, and he is very happy because he thinks it's the best time for Sakazuki to come back. After we get on the boat, we will drink together, Sakazuki also said enthusiastically to Doberman. Then, he looked at Kuzan and others, and said, "This time Sengoku Admiral, let me take the lead, don't you have any comments?" Naturally, there will be no comments. This is a direct order from Sengoku. The rest are okay, only Kuzan frowned slightly. More than a year ago, Sakazuki was demoted. In fact, it was indirectly related to him. The soldier under his command was the one who reported Sakazuki. Although he handled it impartially, in the eyes of outsiders, he was targeting Sakazuki, plus the relationship between the two of them was not very good, so now their relationship is naturally worse. Sakazuki didn't care about Kuzan either. He didn't complain about Kuzan in the report. The two of them were not the same, and it was normal for them to be opposed to each other. Moreover, Kuzan didn't fall into trouble at the time, which was pretty good. Needless to say the rest, this time the mission is very important, so there must be no mistakes. Buster Call is generally not used, but since it is used, let the world know how powerful our naval headquarters is. Buster Call is a deterrent to the world. Even the responsible naval headquarters has not used it a few times, because what kind of military action is too stubborn? It must carry out an indiscriminate and devastating attack on the target area and eliminate everything, so once to be used, it must have the greatest deterrent and sensational effect. 10 top warships carrying tens of thousands of marine soldiers set off from the naval headquarters, from the first half of the Grand Line to West Blue. Is this the silver phone worm that started Buster Call to receive? In the cabin, Sakazuki looked at the silver phone worm in his hand. This is a silver phone worm that matches the golden phone worm. It has no call function and can only receive signals from the golden phone worm. Once the signal is received, it will start on behalf of Buster Call. Uncomfortable thing, the golden phone bug actually gave CP9's Spandane, Buster Call is launched by naval headquarters, but in the end it has to be launched by CP9. This is also what Sakazuki is uncomfortable with. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, we have arrived in West Blue. There has just been news from the headquarters. Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral who has defected from naval headquarters may be in Ohara. The headquarters let us catch him. After arriving at West Blue, Lucas told Sakazuki and conveyed the headquarters order. Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral, Sakazuki also knows, it is the giant Vice Admiral who rescued Robin in the plot. It seems that he is still Kuzan's friend, and was later defeated by Kuzan. Don't delay. Go straight to Ohara. The situation was urgent, so Sakazuki directly ordered to go to Ohara as quickly as possible. In the early morning of the next day, 10 warships had arrived at Ohara Island, and the 10 warships dispersed, enclosing the entire island. All the soldiers were watching Ohara Island vigorously. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, Ohara Island has arrived. Sakazuki stood on the bow of the warship, looking at the island of Ohara ahead. Because they were mainly responsible for the attack this time, they could not take action until they were ordered to attack. They could only stop here and wait. Ohara is not a very big island. To be precise, this island is actually relatively small, so before the Ohara Buster Call incident, not many people knew about this island. Ohara is most famous for its archaeological culture. When Sakazuki glanced at it, he saw a huge tree. He knew that this was the symbol of Ohara, the Tree of Omniscience, the largest library in Ohara, and the most scholars in the world, and the library with the largest collection of books. It's a beautiful place, but it's a pity that it won't exist anymore after today. No matter what the situation develops, under Buster Call, Ohara Island can only exist in legends from today onwards. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, Kuzan Vice Admiral, Doberman Vice Admiral, they're here, Ghost Spider said to Sakazuki. Sakazuki said, let them come. The 5 Vice Admiral of Buster Call got together again, and the Flying Squirrel took the lead and asked, Sakazuki Vice Admiral, when shall we act? Sakazuki said. Sengoku Admiral handed the golden phone worm to Spandine of CP9. I don't know where this guy is. Without the command of the golden phone worm, we can't start it directly, so let's wait. CP9. It's really troublesome. They are all Marine Vice Admiral, senior people in this department, and naturally they don't have a good impression of the CP organization of the world government. Just wait like this. The flying squirrel asked with a frown. Sakazuki nodded and said, wait, the people from CP9 should be here soon. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, a world government ship approached. While they were talking, Lucas suddenly came over to report that all 5 people were shocked. Sakazuki said, the ship of the world government. It seems that the people from CP9 have arrived. Don't worry about them, let them go and let them go directly to the island. Because Ohara Island has been blocked by Marines' warships, even world government ships would not even want to enter Ohara Island without Sakazuki's order. On the ship of the world government, a group of people in black suits gathered together. On the deck, a man in casual clothes was sitting there. Around him were 2 tall men with sunglasses standing. Sir, Marine has been released, shall we land now? A man in black ran over to report. Spandane raised his head and said very dissatisfied, it's really troublesome. Sending me to this broken place originally made me very upset. This group of Marines didn't know what went crazy, and they even dared to stop me. He vented a lot of unhappiness. Spando was very depressed. He was already very upset when he was sent to West Blue. As a result, when they were about to land, the Marine warship actually stopped them, making him almost ready. Get angry. What are you doing in a daze? Hurry up and log in. He felt unhappy, but Spandane only dared to vent it privately. He knew that there were 5 Marine Vice Admiral in this buster call. He didn't dare to offend 1 Marine Vice Admiral, let alone 5. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, the people from CP9 have already landed. After hearing that the people of CP9 had landed, Sakazuki knew that the matter was about to begin, so he asked Kuzan and others to return to his warship, ready to receive the signal from the golden phone worm. He doesn't have much sympathy for the people on this island of Ohara. In his opinion, these scholars are extremely stupid and have no corresponding strength, but they have to explore the blank 100 years of history. This is not an old birthday star. Eat arsenic and find your own way. Knowing that the world government is extremely jealous of this, they even touched their beards. They are asking for trouble in the current situation. Not only are they unlucky, but they also affect the civilians on the island. It is simply stupid. For example, Monkey D. Dragon is so smart. After knowing all this, although he started to act, he was very low-key and did not have direct contact with the world government. Therefore, people can grow stronger and stronger. The scholars of Ohara really are to study knowledge, to study the brain is silly. Especially the last doctor, in order to verify the guess in his heart, he actually communicated with 5 elders through a phone worm, and said all his guesses. He was heard by so many people, so arrogant, so brainless, don't kill who you kill. After the people of CP9 landed, they began to encircle and suppress the scholars on Ohara Island as quickly as possible, arrested them all, and forced them to leave Ohara Island. The entire island became an instant. Get confused. Blue, blue, blue. Standing on the deck, Sakazuki had been staring at Ohara Island. After about 2 hours, he was suddenly yelled by the silver phone worm on the deck. There was no other sound, only the call of the phone worm. Hearing this voice, Sakazuki's spirits suddenly trembled, and the ghost spider also eagerly shouted, the signal is coming. When the phone worm on the Sakazuki ship rang, the other 4 Vice Admirals' phone worms also rang, but none of them took immediate action. Instead, they looked at the warship where Sakazuki was on. Sakazuki was the chief commander of this incident. As long as Sakazuki ordered to fire, they would immediately follow suit. It's time to order, Ghost Spider reminded Sakazuki. Sakazuki nodded. Of course he knew it, but he felt a little emotional in his heart. Once he was just an ordinary person. After being in this world for more than 2 years, his heart has also hardened. Slowly raised his hand. All the soldiers were watching his movements, when Sakazuki waved his hand vigorously, and shouted, fire. With an order, the warship Sakazuki was on was equipped with artillery shells in all the muzzles that had been prepared for a long time, and fired quickly against Ohara Island. Dozens of artillery shells fired at the same time, and the artillery shells fired directly at Ohara Island. After seeing Sakazuki's warship fired, the other 4 Vice Admiral also gave orders at the same time. All 10 top warships fired at the same time. Several hundred guns fired at the same time. The sound was extremely shocking. In just a moment, the beautiful Ohara Island. It ignited a flood of fire. Boom. Shocking artillery fire continued, and the entire Ohara Island was shrouded in flames, and half of the sky was dyed red. Because Buster Call was meant to carry out a devastating blow, the warship did not show any mercy. The continuous artillery shells were exploded, and the island was bound to be cleared. A soldier in charge of watching suddenly screamed, and then ran to Sakazuki to report. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, found the target Jaguar D. Sol Vice Admiral, he is on Ohara Island. Sakazuki turned the binoculars and looked in the direction the soldier was pointing. A giant suddenly lifted a warship that was docking, and smashed it against another warship. The two warships collided. There was a roar, and many marine soldiers fell into the sea in embarrassment. Giant race? Really, the power is amazing enough. The warships they brought are very good, but Jaguar D. Sol was able to lift a warship with his own power. This power is really amazing, but seeing his hill-like body, he can accept it. Jaguar D. Sol was also the former marine anyway, so Sakazuki saw his merciless attack on the warship, his eyes suddenly cold, and he ordered, "Target Jaguar D. Sol, fire the gun." Suddenly, the muzzle on the warship was turned around, and the gun was fired at the position where Jaguar D. Sol was. There were more than a dozen guns, most of them were not bombed, and they exploded around. Only one shot hit Jaguar D. Sol's body, and he almost fell to the ground when the soldiers were preparing to load the bombs. While continuing to attack, Sakazuki stopped them because he saw that Kuzan had come down from the warship and headed straight for Jaguar D. Sol. "I heard that Jaguar D. Sol is his friend, huh, let it go to you, Kuzan." Sakazuki snorted coldly. He was at odds with Kuzan, but since Kuzan had already appeared, Jaguar D. Sol couldn't escape, and it didn't make sense to continue firing, so he ordered the soldiers to bombard the rest of Ohara. Sakazuki, besides the ships of the world government, there are also ships of Ohara on the island, which are full of people, like Ohara's refuge ship. They want to leave Ohara. What should we do? The ghost spider suddenly came to Sakazuki. Pointing to the large refuge ship not far from the shore, asked Sakazuki. Refuge ship. Sakazuki's face was serious. He was very familiar with this scene, but it was not the familiarity, but the familiarity in the memory. In the plot, he sank the refuge ship, and now he is facing this situation again. What do you think should be done? The ghost spider was silent. There were at least 1,000 people on the refuge ship. It was not so casual to make a decision, and he didn't dare to make any suggestions, but if he finally gritted his teeth and said his thoughts. Indecisiveness leads to disaster. Sakazuki nodded. In fact, he had considered this scene a long time ago, and he also thought of the decision, but he still wanted to hear the answer of the ghost spider. With such a big refuge ship, who knows if there are scholars hidden in it? If you have done it, just do it. He closed his eyes first, then opened them suddenly, shouting in a low voice, "Target refuge ship, fire the cannon." Just when Jaguar D. Sol was taking Robin to turn around and continue to escape, suddenly 2 ice spears shot from behind him, and one shot across his body, causing him to roll over and escape in embarrassment. On the other side, the world government ship of CP9 was also preparing to fire, but only stopped after seeing Kuzan. Kuzan walked toward Sol slowly. When Sol turned his head and saw Kuzan, he was shocked. He shouted and asked, "Kuzan, you are here too?" Kuzan put on sunglasses, looked at Sol, and said, "It would be too shameful if the original Marine Vice Admiral blocked the Buster call, Sol." As a former friend, Sol said angrily and kindly, "Kuzan, are you proud of this matter? You got it wrong. Don't you understand? This is the world government's killing. They are not willing to let my secret is known, so the Buster call was issued here, don't you understand?" Kuzan could not see his expression, and said faintly, "For the peace of the future world, this is unavoidable, and this group of scholars is indeed breaking the law, right? The understanding of justice will change with different positions. Sol, you have the justice you insist on, so I don't want to correct your justice, but if you stop us, I can't stand by." When they were talking, a huge roar suddenly sounded in their ears, and everyone looked over in shock, only to see that the refuge ship for civilians on this island was hit by continuous shells and crashed. Kuzan and others were all shocked, and the world government battleship that had not yet started also screamed, "What's the matter?" It was a bombardment from a warship. It was a bombardment from the Sakazuki Vice Admiral warship. Looking at the sank refuge ship, Sakazuki took a breath, closed his eyes, and slowly said, "Go and check, don't leave alive, this incident must not be passed on." For the scholars of Ohara, he has no good feelings, and naturally does not care about their lives and deaths, and even without his order, he does not think that the people of the world government will let these civilians go. Rather than let them suffer in the future, it is better to go earlier. Sending them back to the west, although he did it more for his own sake, he didn't think it was wrong. Damn it, Sakazuki. Kuzan was also shocked by this scene, but Sakazuki is the leader of the Buster Call this time, and he has nothing to do, not to mention that now that things have happened, no matter how angry he is, it is useless. Is this what you call justice? Kuzan, how do you want to quibble? Sol shouted angrily at Kuzan, then raised his huge fist and hit Kuzan with a punch. Kuzan avoided, defending, "I didn't know that Sakazuki could do so well." Sol quickly retreated with Robin after a blow, but he was already scarred. How could he have run through Kuzan, and soon was blocked by Kuzan's freezing ability. After Robin escaped, he was also completely destroyed by Kuzan. Frozen. Hey, it's really ruthless, I didn't even let the civilians on the refuge ship. The rest of the Marines who witnessed the sinking of the refuge ship were also very shocked, and his lieutenant couldn't help saying on Doberman's ship. Daubman turned to look at his lieutenant, and said coldly, "What? Do you think Sakazuki did something wrong?" Under the expression of his lieutenant's consternation, he continued, "Treat evil as absolutely intolerable. Sakazuki did the right thing. Although there are innocent refugees among those people, there are inevitably some people with bad intentions. Sakazuki did this, yes. To bear all the crimes on his own body, so righteous, no one has the right to slander him. He has a very good relationship with Sakazuki. Now Sakazuki is called again and becomes the main player of Buster Call. He believes that Sakazuki has a promising future and will definitely become Marine Admiral, so he will naturally stand on Sakazuki's side. As for the bombardment of refugee ships, it is unacceptable to ordinary people, but it is also acceptable to people like him. On the contrary, Sakazuki would think that it is necessary to do so." The flying squirrel on the other warship also looked serious. He was also a hawkish person, but he was not as extreme as Sakazuki and Daubman. He also thought that Sakazuki did it too much, but thought of Sengoku Admiral before leaving. He could only remain silent about what he said. From the command point of view, Sakazuki did not have any problems. Hua Xiaoshan with a gentle personality wrinkled his brows. Like Kuzan, he disagrees with Sakazuki's approach. He felt that Sakazuki was so cruel that he would not let the refugees go. But thinking of Buster Call, he could only endure it. The shelling of Ohara Island lasted for several hours. Before the shelling was over, Sakazuki ordered the ghost spider to wait until the shelling was over to land on the island to see if there were any survivors. He himself disembarked first. N.S. Robin, who was only 8 years old, cried and ran away amidst the sensation of gunfire. He only knew that he ran away from the gunfire, and unknowingly ran to the beach again, but when she looked up, he found a person sitting on her. In front of her, she stopped in horror. The person sitting in front of Robin was Marine Vice Admiral Kuzan. He was dressed in plain clothes, his eyes turned slightly, and he glanced at Robin. Thorough justice can sometimes turn people into a murder weapon. I decided to release you from this island. I want to see what the life of the person Saul wants to protect when he spares his life will live. You have the right to resent anyone. But I also want to be thankful that I have recovered my life, and stay as low-key as possible in the future. After a pause, he decided to let Robin go on a temporary basis, on the one hand because his friend Saul desperately wanted to protect Robin, on the other hand it was because he saw too much blood today. Especially Sakazuki shelled the refugee ship, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Now Robin may be the only person Ohara can live, so he decided to let Robin die out of various ideas. I have condensed an icy road on the sea. You can reach the land in a small boat and walk all the way. I saw that there was indeed a road condensed with ice and a small boat above the sea. Kuzan stood up and finally said, "Remember, I am not your accomplice. If you commit a crime in the future, I will personally arrest you. Rather than arrest in the future, it is better to solve this trouble now." Just as Kuzan was about to leave, a cold voice suddenly rang, causing Kuzan's footsteps to stop suddenly, and then quickly turned his head to look. Sakazuki. The visitor was Sakazuki. He was standing on the beach, looking at Robin with a stern look. Then he looked at Kuzan and said, "Kuzan, you are too soft-hearted, although she is not too much trouble now. Small trouble, if it is allowed to grow, it will become a big trouble sooner or later. For future convenience, it is better to get rid of it as soon as possible." Kuzan said, "She is still just a child." Sakazuki said coldly, "What about the child? She was wrong, and gave birth to the wrong place." Kuzan's eyes gradually cooled down. "Sakazuki, don't go too far. You sank the refuge ship and killed thousands of innocent civilians. Now you don't even let a child go. You are really too much." Sakazuki said, "If you have problems with my approach, yes, you can complain to me like Sengoku Admiral or Marshal Sora when you return to the headquarters, but now, I have to complete the tasks I should complete." Kuzan said, "Our mission is to destroy the island, but not to kill everyone." Sakazuki said, "This child is also a scholar. She can understand historical texts. In order to prevent her from causing more trouble in the future, she can only be executed here." Kuzan said, "What if I disagree? It's not your turn to decide this matter," Sakazuki said. Robin, who was in the middle of the two, was shocked by the conversation between the two, not even moving at all, let alone talking, and his whole body was trembling. Huh. Kuzan suddenly moved, and saw him quickly appear in front of Robin, exuding chills, and said to Robin, "Go back, remember, take the opportunity to board the boat and leave. You can't protect her." With that, Sakazuki moved too. He was not fast, but he came to Kuzan in a few steps, raised his fist and smashed it at Kuzan. Boom. The magma collided with the ice, and the ice was quickly melted by the hot magma, but Kuzan's ice continued to appear, making it impossible for the magma to break through his defenses. It seems that you are really protecting her, so let me see how capable you are. I have long wanted to teach you. Sakazuki yelled. Although he and Kuzan did not directly hate him, Kuzan's 2 consecutive attacks against him made him very upset. Now that the old hatred and the new hatred are counted together, he has to teach Kuzan a good lesson. Ice Cube, 2 thorn spears. 2 ice spears quickly formed beside Kuzan, and they shot at Sakazuki, piercing Sakazuki's body directly. Puff. This kind of attack is not effective against me, you should understand, Kuzan. Sakazuki quickly recovered from the pierced part. The penetrating power of the ice spear is very strong, but don't forget that he is also Logia. Without Armament Hockey's ice spear, it would be impossible to hurt him. Great eruption. An astonishing punch was blasted out of the anger, a huge magma punch completely enveloped Kuzan, and Kuzan was beaten back again and again. Sakazuki, who had pushed Kuzan back, quickly rushed to Robin's face, and grabbed Robin with his big hand. Fear score from Nico Robin. +285, +84, +67. The hideous expression and huge body made Robin fear from the bottom of her heart. She was so frightened that she didn't dare to move, and she was about to be caught by Sakazuki. Freezing time capsule. The ice bullet hit Sakazuki at an extremely fast speed, quickly icing Sakazuki, turning Sakazuki into an ice sculpture in the blink of an eye. Hurry up. Kuzan shouted to Robin solemnly. Robin resisted the fear, and strode hard to walk towards the boat. Caw-caw, caw-caw. Chi-chi. The sound of melting ice sounded, and Sakazuki, who had turned into an ice sculpture, had broken the ice and turned his whole body into magma. You can't escape. Sakazuki grabbed Robin, who hadn't walked a few steps, lifted her young body directly with big hands, placed it in front of her eyes, and said coldly, "Boy, remember my name, Sakazuki. I don't want to kill you either. But this is an order." Fear score from Nico Robin. +369. As he said, he was about to use his hand, but at this moment, an ice spike shot over and cut off his hand holding Robin. Kuzan quickly caught Robin and moved towards the side of the boat. It's useless. A large swath of magma emerged on the ground, and Sakazuki's whole person turned into magma. He moved quickly underground, even faster than Kuzan. Before he reached the shore, he had already blocked them. Kuzan stopped and watched the magma slowly condense and take shape, turning into Sakazuki's appearance again, his face very solemn. Although he and Sakazuki are both Zephyr's disciples, they are not at the same time, so he has never really played against Sakazuki. He just knows that Sakazuki is very strong, but he has no answer to how strong he is. If he can, he really doesn't want to have a head-on conflict with Sakazuki, but now, he has to do that. Putting Robin down and keeping her away, Kuzan gathered all the momentum. He had decided to fight Sakazuki. It seems you really don't give up. Seeing Kuzan's actions, Sakazuki did not stop him. Facing the current Kuzan, he was 100% confident to win, because Kuzan at this time was still very young, far from reaching the level of 20 years later, but he has become no weaker than the original, so there shouldn't be any problems with defeating the young Kuzan. Just like what I just said to Saul, justice will change with different positions. In my opinion, now is the time to uphold justice. You must never let you continue to kill innocent people. Kuzan said firmly, said. Madness. Sakazuki snorted coldly. Kuzan, I think you are really dizzy. You and First are now Marine, and this kid is a demon trying to destroy world peace. You protect her and you say that you are righteous, so you don't feel funny. You are the one who is funny, Sakazuki. Kuzan snorted. Usually he is very lazy, but facing Sakazuki at this time, he has 12 points of spirit, and also took the lead in attacking. Ice Cube Storm Pheasant's Mouth. The dog bites Gurren. The cold air condensed ice bird flew out and produced an amazing impact. Even the air seemed to be frozen wherever it passed. The dog-shaped assault formed by the lava arm on the other side produced amazing heat. Two completely different forces of extreme cold and extreme heat collide, biting each other, freezing and cooling lava, and lava melting and freezing. The two forces compete with each other. However, the anxious situation did not last long. I saw that the power of lava gradually suppressed the power of freezing. The ice bird quickly melted, and the remaining part of the magma rushed towards Kuzan. Kuzan's face changed. He backed quickly, and used his freezing ability to freeze the magma, but Sakazuki's speed was not slow. Before he deceived himself, the hot magma melted the ice and came to Kuzan's face, and his lava arm shot out. Dark Hound. The lava fist hit Kuzan's body, directly smashing Kuzan into broken ice. What? Robin, who was watching from the side, yelled in horror, thinking that Kuzan was killed by Sakazuki. Fear score from Nico Robin. Plus 746. The crushed ice slowly gathered together and reformed into a human form. Kuzan covered his shoulders with blood at the corner of his mouth. The clothes on his shoulders had been burned, revealing a bloody blur. He looked at Sakazuki in surprise. You actually did this step. He is also Logia, and Magma is also Logia. According to normal circumstances, it is impossible for Magma to hurt him, who is also the marshal of nature. Even if it is melted, it is useless. But now, he is actually injured. So there is only one possibility, that is, armament hockey is covered on the Magma just now, so that it can hit his entity and burn him. Sakazuki said coldly. In this world, if you don't make progress, you are regressing. Kuzan, you and First are both marine, and I don't want to tear my face with you and get out of the way. Although he hit Kuzan, he was not proud of it. He was just one step ahead of Kuzan. Kuzan will do it sooner or later, not to mention that his blow only caused a slight injury to Kuzan. Doesn't affect combat effectiveness too much. Kuzan used his freezing ability to freeze his burned shoulder, then recovered his composure, and said, impossible. Then I will make you have to let it go. Sakazuki yelled and bullied himself again, and this time Kuzan was not to be outdone, and also greeted him. Magma and Frozen faced off again. What's the situation? How did Sakazuki and Kuzan fight? The movement of Sakazuki and Kuzan fighting was very shocking. Others didn't know what was going on, but Doberman and others who were also Vice Admiral could feel that the collision of these two forces was undoubtedly Sakazuki and Kuzan. Sakazuki and Kuzan haven't dealt with each other a long time ago. It's not a bad thing to let them fight. Doberman shook his head. Now that Ohara's situation is settled, Sakazuki and Kuzan can fight as soon as they fight. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I just don't know who is better, it should be Sakazuki. Doberman guessed in his heart. The flying squirrel on the other side was also very curious, but he did not want to go to persuade or watch, but Huo Shaoshan looked at the direction of the battle very worriedly. He has a good relationship with Kuzan, and Sakazuki is a fierce name, so he is more worried about Kuzan. Sakazuki suffered a loss, after all, compared with Sakazuki. Kuzan belongs to the new generation of Vice Admiral. You lost. Sakazuki looked at the Kuzan in front of him, and saw that Kuzan's plain clothes had been damaged in many places, with burn marks. Although he was still standing there, his energy level was obviously much worse than before. Looking at Sakazuki again, there are also some icy debris on his body, braving, but he is much better than Kuzan. He won this battle because the two people just have different opinions, so naturally they will not fight life and death, so they won't. Too many injuries. Sakazuki walked up to Robin, who was completely shocked, and Kuzan immediately shouted, Sakazuki, she is still a child. Sakazuki, who raised his magma fist, obviously paused, but his eyes quickly turned cold. He didn't want to be so cruel, but if he did it, he would be absolutely necessary. For Robin, death may not be a bad thing, he knew very well. What a miserable Robin's next 20 years. I will have a good baby in my next life. As he said, he closed his eyes and shook his fist. Sakazuki. Kuzan wanted to stop, but the distance was too far, and when he was injured, his speed was naturally slower. Mother. Just when Sakazuki's magma fist was about to fall on Robin, Robin suddenly cried and screamed. Fear score from Nico Robin. Plus 1000. Sakazuki's movements suddenly stagnated, and his expression became very complicated. He was not surprised by the 1000 fear points provided by Robin this time, although this amount of fear was a lot. The reason why he stagnated was because of Robin's desperate situation. Yelled. Although he has become very cold since he came into this world, it does not mean that he has no humanity. After hearing Robin's desperate cry, the softness in his heart is suddenly touched, and the movements of his hands are naturally also. Stop. It's just an innocent kid, what am I doing? The whole body was shocked, and the fist that turned into magma has also changed. The magma quickly faded and turned into a normal palm. He raised Robin in front of him and looked at Robin, who had closed his eyes and was crying in despair. You. Kuzan had already rushed over. Originally, he had no time to save Robin, but he didn't expect Sakazuki to stop by himself. Although Robin was still in his hands, Kuzan could feel that Sakazuki was no longer murderous. Sakazuki didn't look at Kuzan, but stared at Robin. Robin had already opened his eyes and looked at him in horror. Fear score from Nico Robin. Plus 567, plus 293, plus 225. You have to thank yourself, you saved your life. As he said, he suddenly threw the petite Nico Robin onto the boat that Kuzan had prepared, and then said coldly to her, Boy, remember, although I let you go, it doesn't mean I won't kill you. If I meet you again in the future, I will definitely solve you by myself. Remember my name, Marine Sakazuki. Fear score from Nico Robin. Plus 187. In a short period of time, Robin has provided him with nearly 3,000 fear points, and it is still increasing. He only hesitated for a moment, and then suddenly an extra card appeared in his hand. Use double fear card. Target. Nico Robin. Used successfully. Because Robin provided him with a lot of fear points in a short time, Sakazuki remembered that there was a double fear card in his backpack, so he immediately used this double fear card on Robin. He has obtained this double fear card for a long time, but has not used it, because he has not found anyone who can always provide him with fear points. Robin in front of him is just a good choice. He knows that this is very weak. How tenacious will Robin live in the future? He believes that the impact he has on Robin today is definitely very big. In the original plot, Robin would be scared when he thinks of Kuzan, and he remembered it for 20 years. Today, he is much more memorable and fearful than Kuzan. Robin will remember him, and when he thinks of him, he is more afraid than hatred. After all, she is not a courage, very big person. Robin didn't expect that Sakazuki would let her go. After reacting, she immediately paddled the oar and left quickly. Looking at the direction Robin was leaving, Kuzan was puzzled. He couldn't help asking, "Did you let her go?" Sakazuki looked at him faintly and said, "Your eyes are fine, I did let her go." Why? 1,000 words, but Kuzan had only one question in the end. Sakazuki said, "Because I also want to see what she can live out and how much benefit she can bring to me, haha." After saying this, Sakazuki turned and left, but when he passed Kuzan, he stopped and said, "I don't want this matter to reach the second person's ears." Kuzan looked at the boat that had gone away, and then stared at the direction Sakazuki was leaving. He really didn't understand what Sakazuki meant. As for what he said, he didn't believe it at all. It was Sakazuki's words that puzzled him. If Robin is released, can it still bring him benefits? What kind of benefits? Sakazuki, you are really unpredictable. Kuzan said quietly, knowing that Sakazuki would release Robin in the end. Where did he need to fight Sakazuki so hard? He didn't get any practical benefits in the end, but he got hurt. Although depressed in his heart, this result is the best for him, and after this battle, he also has a lot of understanding of Sakazuki's strength. Sakazuki's strength is much stronger than him. If the two of them were just life and death if he fights, he knows he will definitely die in Sakazuki's hands. In the past, he always felt that he was strong enough and his talent would never be worse than others, but after this battle, he realized that his vision was too small. Sakazuki, who is also Vice Admiral, is so much stronger than him. It was a great excitement for him, and at the same time it aroused the arrogance in his heart. Still softened. After leaving, Sakazuki couldn't help but sighed. If he could kill Nico Robin, this time the Buster Call mission would be completed perfectly. Leaving Robin behind, it would be somewhat flawed. He did really want to kill Robin before. He did not expect that he would feel soft in the end. He was a little bit emotional, but he did not regret it. Even if Robin was released, it would not affect the overall situation, leaving a text that could interpret the history. People may also be able to play some role in the future. After stabilizing his mind, he regained his coldness and walked towards the interior of Ohara Island. A few hours of shelling blasted this beautiful island with a pleasant climate into a mess. There were fireworks and dust everywhere. There were no bodies along the way, because the civilians were all on the refuge ship and bombed by Sakazuki. The rest, the archaeologists of Japan, are all gathered around the Tree of Omniscience. Marines have already been on the island and started to check for any missing fish. Sakazuki also went directly to the Tree of All-Knowing. Sakazuki, Vice Admiral Daubman and others did not disembark. The leader was Hua Xiaoshan. The Ghost Spider and others also went to the island according to Sakazuki's orders. Except for the marine soldiers who patrolled around, the rest gathered here. Hua Xiaoshan saw Sakazuki approaching, and immediately asked, "Where is Kuzan?" Sakazuki said, "I don't know, I should be back on the boat." Hua Xiaoshan's face was a bit bad. He just nodded to Sakazuki and said, "I'll leave it to you." Then he took his own people and left, apparently planning to go see Kuzan. Sakazuki didn't care about Hua Xiaoshan's dissatisfaction. The Hua Xiaoshan Vice Admiral will also have a similar status to Doberman in the future. He has a good relationship with Kuzan, and his dissatisfaction with him is naturally expected. "How is the situation?" Sakazuki asked the Ghost Spider. The Ghost Spider said, "Come and take a look." Sakazuki followed the Ghost Spider, and soon came to the place where the Tree of Omniscience was originally located. Because of the gunfire, the huge Tree of Omniscience has collapsed, leaving a huge pit, and the pit is full of water. It looks like a lake. This is. When Sakazuki saw this lake, he was surprised. There were countless books floating in the small lake. The Ghost Spider also said with a shocked face, "This is the book in the Tree of All-Knowing Library. It has filled the entire lake. I am afraid there are hundreds of thousands. This is the rescue of those scholars before they were burned to death." Although some books were burned, most of them remained. Sakazuki and the ghost spider are silent. This situation is indeed very shocking. The scholars even care about their lives. They just want to protect these books. In their hearts, it is obviously that the knowledge of books is better than their lives. More important. How to deal with these books? Ghost Spider asked. Sakazuki said, no matter how sinful these scholars are, these books are innocent. This is all human knowledge. People will immediately collect these books and bring them back to naval headquarters. After seeing these protected books, Sakazuki sincerely admired the scholars who were killed. These people may be pedantic and stupid, but they did make a great contribution to mankind. After receiving Sakazuki's order, the Marine soldiers began to quickly rescue the books in the lake. These scholars really cherish these books. The paper materials used are very good, so even if they are soaked in water, there is not much to lose. Sakazuki Vice Admiral found several survivors. After a while, suddenly a soldier came to Sakazuki to report. It is not surprising that there are a few survivors. After all, there are many archaeologists on the island. Even in the face of gunfire, someone will inevitably be spared. So he said, take me over and see. There are a total of 6 survivors, all of them are scarred, serious and even bloody, but they are more than the dead. This also shows how careful Marine search is. As long as they are still angry, they are all taken. Caught it out. This woman seems to be the archaeologist wanted, Lucas said, pointing to one of the white-haired women. Sakazuki looked over and found that it was indeed the wanted Nicole Orovia, Nico Robin's mother. What should these people do? Ghost Spider asked Sakazuki. Sakazuki said in a cold tone, just do what you should do. Understood. The soldiers raised their guns and pointed them at a few scholars who were still alive. Book, you must keep the book. Just as everyone was about to shoot, several scholars suddenly made noises with difficulty. Among them, Robin's mother's tone was even more tense and fierce. Looking at Nicole Orovia who was struggling, Sakazuki raised his hand to signal not to shoot, then walked slowly in front of Nicole Orovia and squatted down. For the sake of your dying, tell you a secret. Under Nicole Orovia's suspicious gaze, Sakazuki said slowly, your daughter has escaped. His voice was very small, only the two of them could hear, so after Nicole Orovia heard it, her eyes widened, and after a moment of surprise, she smiled in relief. Thank you. Since Sakazuki said this sentence, it means that when Robin left, this person must be nearby. In other words, this person must have let her daughter go, so she is sincerely grateful. Sakazuki did not speak anymore, but stood up and walked aside, then the gunman shot at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. Ohara Island is still burning, Marine has already begun to evacuate, and Sakazuki has also returned to his warship with people. Fear score from Nico Robin. +86, +11. After so long, Robin didn't know where he was going, but he provided him with a little fear value, and then he was prompted by the system because he used a double fear card for Robin, so the fear value was directly doubled. Ohara had been destroyed, and Sakazuki also began to order the warship to return, but at this moment, suddenly the world government ship approached. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, Spandane Sama of CP9 wants to see you. Hearing the report from his subordinates, Sakazuki frowned, but nodded in agreement. Soon, Spandane took his 2 men aboard the warship and walked all the way to Sakazuki's front. Sakazuki Vice Admiral, why didn't you just wait for us to evacuate before firing? Did you want to kill us? As soon as he saw Sakazuki, Spandane couldn't help it, and shouted directly in dissatisfaction. Seeing Spandane questioning himself as soon as he came up, Sakazuki's eyes suddenly became cold and he snorted. The phone worm is in your hands. When will you give the signal, I will attack, is there a problem? Spandane was suddenly speechless. He did press the phone worm while on the island, but he felt that Sakazuki should at least wait until he left before sailing. He should not fire the cannon immediately. This not only caused him to lose it. The prisoner almost hurt himself, and his dissatisfaction is natural, so he gets angry when he comes up. Now that I recovered, I was shocked in a cold sweat. Sakazuki in front of him was not Kuzan, but a cruel character. Even so, why did you attack the refuge ship? We were almost hit by you just now. How do I do things? You still need to teach me, huh? Sakazuki's eyes were cold. At the same time, all the Marine soldiers on the warship gathered around, staring at the Spandane trio with cold eyes. Although both Marine and CP9 belonged to the military units under the world government, they did not mean it. The two sides are very harmonious, at least on Sakazuki's side, they are both upset by the CP organization. What do you want to do? When Spandane saw this situation, his ass peed in fright, and he stepped back and looked at Sakazuki in horror. At the same time, he shouted nervously, Sakazuki Vice Admiral, I am the person sent by 5 elders. Don't mess around. Fear value from Spandane. +469, +127, Council. The ghost spider sneered disdainfully. Indeed, compared with the previous CP0 people on Batarilla Island, Spandane, the CP9 chief, was indeed extremely inferior, and it was so scared for people to be so scared. The ghost spider waved his hand to signal everyone to retreat. He had already seen Spandane's insult, so naturally he wouldn't pay attention to him. Sakazuki said coldly, "Don't use 5 elders to press me down. If you don't have any other shit, just get out of here." The contemptuous tone made Spandane extremely angry, but he hadn't lost his mind yet, let alone the marine warship. Even if it was Sakazuki alone, he didn't dare to show dissatisfaction to his face, he could only feel depressed. Fear score from Spandane. +143. I will tell 5 elders truthfully about the matter this time. After speaking, he took his own people away, and gave Sakazuki a wave of fear before leaving. The ghost spider really didn't make a mistake. This guy is indeed a bullshit. After Spandane left, the ghost spider said, although this guy is scared, he is someone who can directly contact 5 elders. Is it okay to treat him like this? Sakazuki said disdainfully, if he is a CP0 person, he is still a bit capable, but he is CP9, do you think 5 elders will put his words in the eyes? He is just a jumping clown, not very capable. Naval Headquarters is one of the strongest military forces under the command of the world government, and he is Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral. It cannot be said to be a high position, but it is also much higher than the status of a CP9 officer. If you question such a if the clowns are imaginary and condemned, that would be too sorry for their identity. The ghost spider on the side nodded silently. He became more and more aware of Sakazuki's changes. Sakazuki was more confident and more haughty than before. He felt that it was because Sakazuki awakened Conqueror's haughty that his personality changed imperceptibly. I think this is a good sign. In fact, his feeling is correct. Even Sakazuki himself did not feel it. He is indeed acting more and more confidently. Maybe this is related to his getting stronger and stronger, but it is undeniable that it also has a stronger courage. Conqueror's haughty becomes stronger. Even though his Conqueror's haughty was given by the acquired system, now he has control and belongs to him. This buster call is considered a success. Presumably the marshal will lift your forbidden foot. Ghost Spider asked. Sakazuki said, didn't I have left Marineford now? The Ghost Spider was startled, and then smiled. That's right, the next step is just a formal procedure, but what I want to know is that the marshal will abdicate soon. After Sengoku Admiral succeeds, will the remaining admiral's position is filled? If he does that, you and Peluzolino have the best chance. Marine Admiral. Sakazuki's eyes flash brightly. He is really eager for this position, not only because of the power brought by this position, but more importantly, this position will make a huge change in his status and status. Once he becomes Marine Admiral, as long as he is not if you die by yourself, you can basically abdicate all the time. After becoming Marine Admiral, even Marshal Marine has no right to directly dismiss it. This is considered to be truly entering the center of power of the world government. Coupled with strong power, even the so-called celestial dragons of the world must be polite. Angry treatment. It is not an exaggeration to say that although Marine Admiral and Marine Vice Admiral have only one level, they are actually very different. To give a simple example, take Sakazuki himself. If he was Marine Admiral more than a year ago, he might be targeted at the things he did, but in the end he would only receive some symbolic things. The blame is not as serious as the punishment, because Marine Admiral has the right to make decisions, not just follow orders. The feeling of being controlled by others is really uncomfortable, so of course Sakazuki wants to be Marine Admiral. But the problem is that Sengoku is not actually on the same road as him. Sengoku belongs to the moderate dove, and the Admiral between the hawks, and he is more inclined to the doves, so for him, such an absolute eagle send Vice Admiral, the attitude is actually not very good. Once Sengoku becomes Marine Marshal, Peluzolino is likely to become Admiral to make up for his position. As for another Admiral vacancy, it will not be so easy to say. If Garp Vice Admiral is willing, it is not at all. Question. But his attitude and behavior, coupled with Long's current identity, I am afraid it is basically impossible. As for the rest of the veteran Marine Vice Admiral, there are not many people with strength, potential, and courage, but it is difficult to say that Sengoku will promote himself. Today's Naval Headquarters situation is actually fairly clear. Coupled with Sakazuki's understanding of the subsequent Naval Headquarters, he can more or less estimate most of the situation. The veteran Marine Vice Admiral basically has no room for promotion, because once Sengoku succeeds Marine Marshal, as the so-called Emperor and Courtier, normal people will not choose the veteran Vice Admiral to be their confidant, because most of those people are if you want to get rid of the shadow of the empty, you must promote your confidant, or the newcomer. But there is no absolute in the world, and no one can say for sure. Sengoku has a lot of confidence, but there is really no one who is eligible to become Marine Admiral. Garp is barely one, but the problem is that Garp is not a normal Marine soldier. If he wants to become Admiral, he will already be. But today's situation is a bit different. Garp's son, Monkey D. Dragon, has become the #1 dangerous person against the world government. Even if Garp doesn't know it, the world government certainly cannot make Garp a Marine Admiral. After all, Garp's name is. There is also a D in it, and Garp's prestige in Marine is too high. Can 5 elders be afraid? So don't say that Garp didn't have the idea of becoming Marine Admiral. Even if he does, there is basically no such possibility. The one who is most likely to become Marine Admiral now is the young and strong Vice Admiral like him in Pelusalino. Pelusalino is likely to replace Sengoku. Now it depends on whether Sengoku will also promote him. But to be honest, he really didn't have much confidence in his heart. Marine Admiral serves as a deterrent to the existence of evil forces around the world, and it is also the highest combat power of naval headquarters. Such an important position cannot be vacant, especially now that it is the transition of blue and yellow. Sengoku needs to use new power to consolidate its rule. It just so happens that Pelusalino has enough qualifications and strength, and he belongs to the neutral faction, so if no surprises, Sengoku should be promoted to the position of Marine Admiral. As for him, although he is also qualified and capable, can he now? It depends on Sengoku to become Admiral. On the way back home, Sakazuki entered the system interface. Now he has accumulated 185,437 fear points. After so long, he is ready to start using these fear points. The fear value of more than 180,000 is the most fear value he has obtained so far, so he feels that he has enough fear value to buy goods or conduct a lottery. The store is now able to buy Conqueror's Hockey Fruit, as well as a ginseng fruit, but this ginseng fruit is too weird. It always shows out of stock status, so he can't buy it at all. He has not purchased for so long, and he already has his own plan. Now, the ones that can directly improve his strength are undoubtedly Armament Hockey and Conqueror's Hockey, so he first bought the Hockey Fruit of Armament Hockey. Take 1 Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 2nd Stage 16. After eating a Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey has reached *16. He remembers that the last time he ate Hockey Fruit, he raised the 2nd stage of Armament Hockey to *4, and now it suddenly became *16. In other words, in the system evaluation of Hockey's training over the previous year, it can be regarded as an increase of 11 levels. He estimated that the current *16 is almost half of the magma covering Armament Hockey. If you want to cover the entire magma, I am afraid that there are at least 16 Hockey Fruits, maybe more than that. After thinking about it, he continued to buy the Armed Hockey Fruit. Take 1 Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 2nd Stage 17. Take 1 Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 2nd Stage 18. Take a piece of Hockey Fruit. Take 1 Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 2nd Stage 50. I thought that only 16 Hockey Fruits were needed to make Hockey cover the entire body of magma, but the final result surprised him. He actually ate 34 Hockey Fruits to achieve Hockey covering the entire body. There must be some reason for this. Sakazuki thought about it for a long time, and finally only thought of one possibility that is more reliable, that is, the Hockey Fruit purchased through the system, in fact, is not as good as his own exercise. From the beginning of *4, he exercised to half the body of Hockey. It was assessed by the system as adding 11 grades, but in fact it has a larger range than this grade. Because it took 34 Hockey Fruits to complete the other half, now *50, which is equivalent to Armament Hockey, even if the whole body is turned into magma. It seems that purchasing fruit promotion from the system and self-exercising promotion are two different exercise methods. The improvement of the system lies in the fast speed, and only the fear value is needed, while the self-exercising will be more solid, which is better or worse. It's really hard to say. Ding. The new product is on the shelves, please check it out. As Sakazuki was thinking, suddenly a familiar prompt appeared, which shocked him. New product. He hurriedly looked at the store, and saw that the shopping store had undergone a lot of changes. The original 2 Armament Hockey Fruit purchase options had disappeared, replaced by another Hockey Fruit. The original Armament Hockey Fruit was peach-like, but now it is orange-yellow. After choosing this Hockey Fruit, an introduction appeared immediately. The content was an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit. After taking this Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey can reach a higher level and complete Hockey isolation. The introduction is that simple, but Sakazuki understood the meaning at once. This is the realm he has been pursuing. Armament Hockey can be attached to other media. Even if it is out of the body, Hockey will not disappear. Try it. He just hesitated, and soon he bought one. The newly appearing Hockey Fruit still had a fear value of 1,000 points. After the fruit appeared in the backpack, he immediately took it out and ate it. Take an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit to start the third stage of Armament Hockey 1. Sakazuki is really speechless about the system's naming attitude. Look at what the name is. All three types of hockey are called Hockey Fruits. After the upgrade, nothing has changed. First, the upgraded version of Hockey Fruits, and now again. It is an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit. Will there be an ultimate version of Hockey Fruit in the future? Tukao was only for a short while, and soon he was attracted by the effect of this enhanced version of Hockey Fruit. Armed. His right hand turned into magma and covered Armament Hockey, then he threw the magma out, and he watched carefully. Soon, he discovered the problem. After the magma broke away from the body, the hockey above it did not disappear. It was still covered on the magma, but when the distance reached 1 meter, the Armament Hockey above disappeared completely. It's very clear now. This enhanced version of Hockey Fruit once again increases the range of hockey in vitro. A fruit is equivalent to 1 meter. The improvement is limited, but the effect is very good. In the first half of the Grand Line and in the 4 Seas, Armament Hockey may still be a rare ability, but after New World, anyone with a little strength will basically be Armament Hockey, although this is also related to the habitual crash setting of Oda, but from his own contact, he knows the importance of Armament Hockey. Take an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 3rd Stage 2. Take an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit, Armament Hockey 3rd Stage 3. Take an enhanced version of Hockey Fruit, taking 49. Just when he purchased the 49th enhanced version of Hockey Fruit, suddenly the system prompt appeared again. Ding. The new product is on the shelves, please check it out. Surprised Sakazuki immediately scanned the shopping store, but was surprised to find that no new products appeared, but the system has not made such a mistake so far, so he read it again and immediately found the problem. I saw that the ginseng fruit that had always been out of stock was lit up again. He just went to see if there were any new products, so he ignored it. Unexpectedly, the new product mentioned by the system was actually this ginseng fruit. There is another ginseng fruit that can be purchased, but what is the principle? Why is it in stock at this time? The ginseng fruit in the store is a very special product. It is different from the other products. You can buy the other kinds of fruit as long as you have a fear. But this ginseng fruit cannot be bought if you have money. So far, there are only 2. After buying this ginseng fruit, sure enough, the options for ginseng fruit became out of stock again. After upgrading Armament Hockey to the 3rd Stage 49, Sakazuki did not continue to strengthen, but looked at the first product, the Fruit of Hockey. Among Conqueror's Hockey, at present he only has Observation Hockey left. He doesn't know if the original body has Observation Hockey, but he has been in this world for so long, but he knows that he does not have Observation Hockey. It may be that the original body has it, but he has not inherited it, or it may be that the original body does not have it, so he does not have it either. Taking 1 piece of Hockey Fruit, Observation Hockey is improved. Taking 1 piece of Hockey Fruit, Observation Hockey is improved. I bought and ate 2 Hockey Fruits in a row, but the tips I got are still the same, but Sakazuki is not in a hurry. He believes that this Hockey Fruit of seeing and hearing must be the same as the Hockey Fruit of armed color. It is not that there is no accurate representation, but it did not reach that level. Sure enough, when he ate the 3rd Hockey Fruit, the prompt he got was finally different. Take 1 Hockey Fruit, Observation Hockey 1. Finally, the improvement of Observation Hockey appeared intuitively. According to his understanding, it was equivalent to the first level. Then he tried it. When he was attentive, he could clearly feel the movement of a meter around him, as if he had heard some sound, and he was in full control of the changes around him. Is this Observation Hockey? It's only 1 meter away. Frowning slightly, he gradually discovered a big problem. The abilities obtained through the system are completely different from those of his own training and awakening. For example, Conqueror's Hockey, it is impossible to be only 1 meter or 2 meters in general when awakened. Range, but a very large range, the only difference is whether it can be controlled as desired. The same is true for Observation Hockey. There are several detailed descriptions of Observation Hockey's awakening process in the anime, such as Zoro's awakening and Usopp's awakening. After they awakened, they all have a great range of perception. You can use the fear value to buy in the system, and the abilities you get are different. They can only be improved one by one. Armament Hockey has it by itself, so it can be improved steadily while exercising. However, Sakazuki tried Conqueror's Hockey. Conqueror's Hockey can indeed exercise on his own, but it cannot increase the range of action. He can only make his control more perfect and use it more freely. Observation Hockey is estimated to be the same today. All kinds of signs made him involuntarily produce a guess. The ability that he does not possess can only be improved through the system, and the ability that he has can also be improved through the system, but it can also be obtained by self-training. Big improvement. In Sakazuki's view, Observation Haki is definitely a very important ability, so he immediately started to improve. Take 1 Haki Fruit, Observation Haki 2. Take 1 Haki Fruit, Observation Haki 3. Take. Observation Haki has been raised to *60, which is the range of 60 meters. For Observation Haki's autonomous awakeners, the distance of 60 meters is not too far, but for Sakazuki, it is already very important. I just wanted to reach the state where the Observation Haki covers the islands that Rayleigh said, it is still 1,000 miles away. However, Sakazuki doesn't care. There are more opportunities to gain fear in the future. There is no chance to increase, and it has reached *60, but there is no upgraded or enhanced version of Haki Fruit, which shows that Observation Haki has improved. It's not the same as the other 2 Haki upgrades. I have purchased 2 Haki Fruits in a row, and have spent 145,000 fear points, and now there are more than 40,000 fear points left. With a fear value of 40,000, Sakazuki did not hesitate too much. He bought another 30 Conqueror's Haki Fruits, and raised the second stage of Conqueror's Haki to a range of 50 meters, making his Haki impact reach a radius of 50. Rice, used to kill miscellaneous fish in seconds, is absolutely effortless. With 10,000 and several hundred fear points left, he did not continue to buy goods, but moved to the lottery center. Lottery. Sakazuki feels very exciting for Sakazuki, rather than buying an existing product. Thank you for participation. Thank you for participation. Congratulations on drawing a bursting charm, which has been deposited in the backpack. The lucky draw this time was good. It was only the 3rd time to get something, and he was still very satisfied with the burst charm. Among the many known lottery items, he felt that the burst charm was definitely a very cost-effective one, but it hasn't been long for him to be happy. Thank you for participation. Thank you for participation. He didn't draw 7 times in a row, which made Sakazuki's face suddenly darkened, but fortunately he was drawn again for the 8th time. Congratulations on winning a donut, which has been deposited in the backpack. Congratulations on winning a senbei, which has been deposited in the backpack. The 2 foods were drawn in a row, and then thank you for your participation, 3 times in a row, and then they were drawn again. Congratulations on drawing a double fear card, which has been deposited in the backpack. So. Then he kept drawing again, and when he drew to the 80th time, a new prize appeared unexpectedly. Congratulations on winning a cleaning card, which has been deposited in the backpack. Cleaning card. Sakazuki looked blank, and a new prize appeared. But why is this prize so strange? He clicked in the backpack to check it, and after seeing the introduction, his face was suddenly speechless. It's not that this cleaning card is bad. In fact, this cleaning card is really not bad. After using it, it can keep the whole body clean for 10 days, and even the clothes on the body are the same. What's even stranger is that even the clothes are covered in battle. If it is torn, it can be repaired automatically afterwards. Keeping the whole body clean for 10 days, even the clothes can be repaired. This ability is indeed very good, but the disadvantage is that it can only be used on oneself, and there is no slight improvement in strength. Well, at least foods like senbei are much better than donuts. The practicability of this clean card is still good. Sakazuki can only comfort himself in this way. In fact, he also discovered that most of the prizes drawn at the lottery center are ordinary items, which have nothing to do with strength. So far, the only good thing is the bursting talisman can barely be regarded as the prize of attack.